2, 1. It is awesome to see you.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be here. This is great.
Thank you for coming. I was having this subject came up when I had Evan Rons on last week.
Oh, love Evan.
And there's a list of people that I've wanted to have on like for a while, but I'm glad that I didn't, because if I did it years ago, I would have fucked it up royally. So, and you're on that list. So thank you for coming.
For sure.
And thank you for being a gracious guest, because I may or may not have screwed up some scheduling stuff. So I appreciate the flexibility.
That's the adventures of podcasting. That's the best part about it. Just coordinating with other people.
Yeah. Congratulations, seriously, on all the success of Dry Heat.
Thank you.
It's really awesome to see. And I definitely want to get into Dry Heat, how it started, why you wanted to do it. But you've been doing comedy for 13 years now?
I think this will be my 15th year.
15
in
years.
August, yeah.
And you started out in New York.
I started here.
Okay.
And then, so I grew up here. I started comedy here, and I started the year after Laughs, which was the comedy club, had closed. And so when I started comedy, everybody was doing it just really DIY and in like bars and theaters and stuff like that, which really, really appealed to me at the time. And then after about 5 years of doing it, I was like, I just got to go to like a town where people do it. And so I was like, I just want to go and be a joke teller somewhere. And so I picked New York and moved there for 5 years. And
what made you land on New York? Because you would think the logical move. What year was this that you decided to move?
2014.
Okay, so 2014. You would think that the logical move, especially living in the Southwest, would be go to LA. LA. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, 2014, that's really the height of Netflix basically stealing comedy from Comedy Central. Mm-hmm. That's the height of, well, not the height, but that's maybe really when podcasting, stuff like the Joe Rogan Experience, Mark Maron, all these comedy-based podcasts are really starting to take off and really starting to get like more mainstream audiences rather than just like the entertainment audiences. What made you choose New York over LA?
I felt like at the time that in New York, stand-up comedy could be its own thing. Like you could do that for your life in New York. And it felt like in LA, everybody who does stand-up comedy in LA is actually just trying to get acting jobs. And so I was like, well, I'm trying to take comedy as seriously as I humanly can take it. And then that seemed like New York is where that happens. And so, because The Cellar is in New York and SNL is in New York and like all that kind of, like the right kind of industry for what I was looking for from comedy was there. And then also like growing up and being like, you know, a musical theater kid and all that stuff. New York is just a nerdy kid's like dream. So I was really into that too. So.
Well, how early were you when you started doing musical theater?
Oh, I was in, like, you know, like Vacation Bible School or like preschool, you know, like
that is a term I have not heard. And I went to Vacation Bible School, and because I grew up in a very Christian household, I'm still a Christian now, but like because you don't, like, you can do religious things as a kid, but you're not absorbing it. And the only thing I liked about Vacation Bible School were the little action figures that we got. That was it.
You guys got action figures?
They were like these little Christian bugs.
Oh.
And each bug like represented like a virtue or something like that. Cool. I completely forget what it was. That was the only thing I latched onto. Oh my God, awesome. Vacation Bible School. So you start out doing, so performing has always been your personality.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I think I had a teacher when I was really little one time who was like, do you get nervous before like plays or whatever? And I literally was like, no. And it still is like one of those things where it's like, I get very excited. And when stakes are high, I care about them. But I feel way more comfortable being in front of a lot of people than I do. I mean, this is a wonderful situation.
Yeah,
so not in a one-on-one situation like this, but in a small group. So it kind of makes me feel awkward.
Interesting. So I forget what the theory is, but it's a sociology theory where it's for people like doing public speaking, when they stand in front of a crowd, it gets to a certain threshold where there could be 100 people or 100,000, but the 100,000 just becomes a big wave of nothing. Yeah. And so do you find that happens to you when like you're speaking in front of, or you're doing comedy in front of so many people, like past a room of 30, 40, 50 people, it's just like, it could be, you're like, not that the crowd is nameless or faceless, but it's like it kind of just washes out. I'm proud to announce that the podcast is now officially sponsored by the fine people over at Chop Chili Company. Guys, this is some of the best chili you can get here in the state of New Mexico, and they are online as well as in stores. They can be found at Smith's, Albertsons, Sprouts, John Brooks, and Lowe's Corner Market. They have 3 amazing flavors that you see here, and they also have frozen green chili that you can get online. Go on over to the website, chopchilico.com, and get yourself some amazing chili today. Podcast is now officially sponsored by the amazing people over at High Desert Relief, a premier herbal destination right here in the state of New Mexico. They have extremely well-trained and knowledgeable staff that are more than happy to help you find what you're looking for or try something that you maybe have never thought of. They have 2 locations here in Albuquerque, 1 in Santa Fe. All 3 will be listed right here and in the description of this episode. All 3 offering legendary products at absolutely legendary prices, including this awesome merch that they were so kind enough to gift me here. All of this can be found at all 3 of their locations. Again, big thank you to the guys over at HDR for supporting. Now back to the episode.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I used to talk about it. I worked at Dion's for a long time, and I was like their orientation facilitator. And I used to talk about it like, they're one group, like the way a crowd is a crowd. And I can feel when somebody, like, I used to say, like, would dim. Like, I can feel when an energy in, like, a spot of it will, like, not be at the same level as everybody else. And so then I can kind of direct a little bit of attention there and just try to pop it back up or whatever. And the same thing happens with a crowd of, I don't know, like 45 at Dry Heat, or the same thing at, like, the roast battles. You can kind of tell where people are kind of dipping in and out, and you can just kind of be like, let's hear it one more time in the back, or like that kind of stuff, and get them to come back. But
that is something, because I don't even consider myself a stand-up at all. Oh, thank you. It's on camera now, you fuckers. No, thank you. No, but like in the short amount of time that I've been doing open mics and stuff like that, and I've been blessed enough to get booked on a couple of shows from A. Marie, I've noticed that. And it's something that I've been trying to really hone in on, and amongst a million of things that there is to work on in stand-up. But, you know, you can direct your energy. I never really understood that. I kind of figured that it's just all part of the act, and they like you because you're up there. But no, you have to, like, actually, it's like you're a laser beam, and you have to actually, like, focus it, and you feel like this is going down. Maybe give them some more love. And then, okay, if there's just some bullshit nonsense going over, that's one of the biggest pieces amongst the many that I've gotten, pieces of advice that I've gotten from Steph was on my first show that I did. He was on it, and we were watching Black Mike do his set, and he's doing awesome. But no matter how great he was doing, it was great. There was a table down the middle where it was just, they had to have been from Tanawan.
Oh, sure.
It was these middle-aged white people between the ages of like 55, no, like 43 and 60, around there. And these poor people, I felt bad for them because it looked like they just were having dinner at the brewery, and then it was like comedy in 15 minutes because half of them were like, "What?" But they were laughing at his stuff. So my point in bringing this up is his advice: like, look, read the room, but notice like they're not really engaging. So don't even try to direct energy there. No. Just acknowledge it. If you get a laugh, you great. If you don't worry about it. Yeah. But to go back to what we were originally talking about, so when it comes to before shows. And because you said that you just never really had like it sounds like when like you said, the stakes are high and you have the anxiety about it, it's like a positive anxiety. It's like, I just want to get up there. I just want to fucking, did you ever, especially in starting stand up, did you ever have the moments where you're like, fuck, I don't know if this is it. I don't know if my shit's together. Like, is that something you had to consciously get over? Or is that ever a problem?
No, I mean, you know, like the first time I ever did stand up, my parents came, and when I was on stage, my mom like leaned over to my dad and was like, she's never going to want to do anything else ever again.
That's awesome.
And for her to like recognize that, because that was 1000% what it was like. So it's like I was there and I was like, well, this is exactly what I've been trying to like shoehorn with everything else I have been trying to do, is this kind of like direct talk and this like me and my ideas, and this is all it takes. And so no, it was never a time where I was like, this is probably wrong for me. It was just one of those things where it's like, I need to get as good at this as I can, as quickly as I can, so that I can keep doing this, and I can either make it happen for other people, make money from doing this, or however that is shaking out to do it. I just have to get good at this as soon as possible. And so...
How old were you when your mom told your dad that?
I was... See, that's the thing about it, too, is like I was 24 when I started comedy, and I wish I had started it earlier. Like... I remember in college, we'd go see stuff that Trick Lock put on. They were a theater troupe here for a long time, and Rusty Rutherford was like he was part of them. And I would see him do like one-man shows and stand-up as part of their variety shows. And Rusty was my friend, and I knew a lot of theater kids in college, but I wasn't ever a theater major. And so he was kind of the only person I really knew who was doing it. And if I could have done it at 18 or whatever, I wonder how different things would have gone, or if I would have gotten to New York faster, or how that would have shook out too. But yeah, 24. So not the oldest, but definitely if you can start younger, you should start younger. But,
well, it's hard to have. I mean, I think about myself when I was 18, and the only thing I wanted in the world was to be in the military.
oh yeah.
That is all I wanted. And now, almost 10 years later, the last thing that I want to do is, and that is no shade to my friends in the military, and that is no shade to everyone that I've served with, and they all know how I feel. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, that is the absolute last thing and there's a million different reasons for that, but I mean, it's hard to really zone in on, let's assume you know what you want at 18, or you have an idea of what you want at that age, and you zone in on it, and you spend so much time doing it. It turns out, obviously, you would have loved to stand up, but for other people, it's like, well, I started doing this such a young age. I've put too much time into it to quit now, and it just goes down that spiral. And
I knew a couple people who did do that, where they like spectacularly burnt out on stand up, and they'd started so early, got pretty far, got kind of taken advantage of by the business of it, and like that, and then just really just fully
right.
And so in that way, good. And then also, I don't know how much perspective about life I could have had at 18, just being like, you guys all work at Dion's too? Like that would be like all I'd ask.
So the thing about cheese pizza
exactly. These yellow shirts suck.
I feel like I applied to Dion's so much, I never got it. But I feel like Dion's like the rite of passage for everyone in Albuquerque between the ages of like 14 to 18. And I just never got it. It's like, okay, well, I guess I'll just eat the food. I will never be able to make it. So you end up moving to how much time did you spend again in Albuquerque doing stand-up again?
I did 5 years here in Albuquerque, and then 5 years in New York, and then it's been 5 years since I moved back.
Okay, so in that, let's focus on the 5-year period, the first 5-year period here in Albuquerque. So Laughs just closes down, a lot of DIY stuff happening like you explained. So I would imagine that people doing stand-up at the time are people that actually want to do it. It's not just like, oh, well, if I just play the game, or if I get good at whatever good enough even means. But if I just cross the threshold, I can get into this comedy club. I might be able to make money. But the people that are actually doing it now have the passion for it. They have the want, the drive for it. Did you see that in the community? Or was like mostly people just really wanted it? And how was it navigating through, like, because at least thankfully now, I think this is in every industry in Albuquerque right now for entertainment wise, but if you want to do something, for the most part, you can go out and do it. And a large part of that is because of whether it's venues like yours or like breweries that really stepped up. And like for the comedy side of it, they're having a bunch of open mics and all this different type of stuff. Like, I mean, when I started stand up in like really in October, July, October-ish, there was only like 5 open mics a week. And now in a short time, there's 7. Yeah. And then a couple of nights, there might be 2. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a lot. For wild. People listening, that's a lot of growth in a little time.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, that's more mics than a lot of cities our same size have. So, like, that's more mics than El Paso has in a week and that kind of stuff, too. So it's something I'm really proud of.
It's awesome. Mm-hmm. And you have influence in that and making that happen. Like, Dry Heat has a direct connection to stuff like that happening, which is awesome.
And it would be one of those things, too, where it's like if there was a day that for some reason it fell out, then we also have the producing power to find a venue and just say that, like, okay, well, Dry Heat now does Wednesdays, or whichever one that is too. So we always just, no matter what we do, we try to be gap fillers. So we just figure out what everybody needs, where everybody's going, and then we're just there to make sure it can happen so everybody can get to the next step of whatever they need or whatever Albuquerque needs.
And it's a very good point, and that's something I've had in the back of my head that I want to get to later. Is I think the business model of what you and Kelly have developed at Dry Heat is very genius. And I'll get to that a little bit later, but I think the business model is awesome. What you guys have, whether it's just a club or the promotions you do outside of it, I think is great. But the reason I bring up all the mics that are happening now is because you didn't have that, it sounds like, back then. So what was it like back then having to navigate that do-it-yourself setting? And then, I mean, without naming names, how many people that were doing stand-up then, we don't have to be here in New Mexico still, but are still doing it?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a good handful of people who, were doing it before me, obviously, and they were doing it at Laughs and on their own too. And then once I got started,
Continue. I'm just going to check the cameras.
no problem. I had a couple guys who started, I think within a couple weeks of each other. We all started at the same time, like Joe Quesada and AJ Martinez. And we all just kind of fell into it. And it was one of those things where it's like, well, if you want people to play with on the playground, you've got to like build the playground. And so we went from having a show, it was a booked show every 2 weeks. And then there was an open mic at this bar called Retros that you could go to. And it also was every 2 weeks. And so it took a long time before we even had a single weekly open mic, even one. And a lot of that happened because of my friend Brett Hiker, who was living here. He started comedy here, and he was doing film stuff right when it was just beginning to really start here. And then he kind of would go back and forth between Denver and here, and he'd be like, if you guys want to be even close to a scene like Denver is, you have to have a regularly occurring open mic. You've got to give people a chance to get up and get better.
Build it, and they will come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happened where it's like, oh, I better learn how to produce a show because this is the only way we're going to get this going. And I think the first show I produced, it was in a venue that my friend Matt and Roger Peterson, who's another comedian here still in town, they were running in the back of Howie's, which is a sports bar up in the Heights.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They let me borrow their spot for a night. I got to borrow somebody's PA. And then, like, I booked all those people to be on the show because I was so grateful for them, like, letting me, like, stone soup this show together. And then, like, it was these two guys who were coming in from LA, and for some reason they found me before they found anybody else. And I was like, we've got to show them that we've got it together and we can do this okay. And so we just threw this show together.
It's like Squidward getting the band together.
Yes, exactly. And so, but then after that, it was like, oh, okay, so this is no big deal. We can go to places like breweries, because that was also at the same time that, like, Marble had really got its stuff going, and they didn't really have a stage except for that big outdoor one at the downtown.
Yeah, the downtown Marble,
mm-hmm.
Right.
And then Tractor didn't even really have a brick and mortar yet. They were still in Las Lunas, and then they were on their way here. And then as those all opened up, then it was one of those things where it was like, oh, well, these places need stuff on nights. And so that's when you really saw, like, Geeks Who Drink also kind of explode and do trivia all over town. And then you would have karaoke a lot more than I think we even have now. And then just these breweries just trying to get people to come through their doors and drink their beer. And so that really coincided well with comedy starting. But then I wouldn't say, like, what you're saying about, like, maybe now people are, like, doing it to do it or whatever. That wasn't really the case at the time. Like, there were and are a couple people who really took it seriously. But it was a lot of, like, recently divorced guys or, like, people who never really had a social scene or, like, that kind of stuff. And so they were looking for a way to tap into, like, a group of friends. And so, and then we could do that too. So that was really fun, is that after the show, we would all go back to, like, my place or somebody's house, and we'd all just, like, drink and goof around and be goofballs. And that was enough for some people. Like, they basically, like, paid the price of learning 5 minutes of jokes so that they could have a hangout afterwards.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And it was enough to get a show together, and you can kind of keep that going. But then sometimes you'd end up with people who were too drunk at the show or during the show, and so it's so much better now.
I was gonna say, not that I've experienced it firsthand, because I just haven't been around the community long enough to experience it firsthand. But I have heard stories, and I have heard of instances where, like, because of how more, I don't know if professional is the right word, but how more tangible the comedy scene in Albuquerque is becoming, a lot of that type of activity is slowly getting washed out, because then it's like, oh no, like, because I even, again, in the short time that I've been going to open mics, I saw where it's like open mic now, like Red Door or at Lizard Tail, that was, I didn't go start going Lizard Tail till recently, but I had heard that they were kind of just struggling to get more than 6 people on the lineup. Now it is 15 people every Monday. Red Door, with very, very few exception, Chuck Parker has a full list every Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
So that type of activity is like, okay, you're just doing stand-up for a social life. That's kind of getting phased out just because there's people that are actually there. And not because people are getting turned away from a mic, it's just because the people that are just doing it, again, they pay their price, the price of justification to go party afterwards, to bomb for free the 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They're not showing up on time to sign up, and everyone that's getting there is signing
ready
up
to go
immediately. And so I think that serves the scene well, because, again, you know, and I've had friends that have told this to me, like they'll stumble into a bar or a brewery where they didn't know there was an open mic, and they see the open mic happen. They watch people eat shit, and like, oh, that's Albuquerque comedy.
That's awful. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
People are like, ugh.
And I try to tell them, like, okay, well, that's open mic everywhere.
Yeah,
okay, you might go to places like maybe like Austin or LA or New York where there's just certified killers on a fucking mic, but you know, like more than we have here. Right, that'll happen. But if you just go to most open mics anywhere, it's going to be people singing at a pitch. It's going to be people bombing. That's a norm. Go see a real show.
New York open mics are some of the worst.
Oh, I'm sure.
You can't even, like, there'd be times where you'd be like, Tim Dillon's on before you, and you'd be like, holy moly. And then the next person on would be like, you couldn't even imagine the next person. The next person just stumbled off the street and just wanted to like scream into a microphone about whatever was plaguing their mind that day. And so, which I would also use to describe Tim Dillon's comedy. But like, also,
I love Tim Dillon
I know.
much. I would pay money to see him show up at the end of an Albuquerque open mic and just watch him speak about it. Go. My God. I was watching his show before you came in. That's so funny. Anyway, so that 5-year period, when the DOI stuff was happening, how old were you when you put your first show together? Let me rephrase that question. How long into comedy were you?
Not even 3 months.
That's awesome because even now, because of where the comedy scene is at here in Albuquerque, I mean, fucking AJ that's putting on his show. He's got his next show coming up on Monday at Tractor.
Perfect.
Like that kind of stuff can still happen, which is cool to see. And
it should. Yeah.
And it should. 110%. It's awesome that stuff can still happen right now. So you're 3 months into comedy. What was it? Where did that thought come from? Because where it's like, oh, well, I've only been doing it for 3 months, but like, fuck it, let's put a show together.
Yeah, I mean, I have a very Muppet approach to to this art. I really am just like, let's put on a show. Like, I think good stuff can come out of putting people in the room together and getting a show going.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it wasn't even. I don't think I hesitated for a second. I mean, I obviously could have given it to Matt to have done it in Howie's or whatever, but I felt a little bit of responsibility to be like, I'm going to contribute to this the same way that I'm getting catered to in this. Like, if I'm going to be asking to be on shows, like, the least I could do is, like, also expand the pool a little bit so that everybody gets a little bit more stage time. And then it became a thing where it was like, you know, you get a bigger and bigger network and a cooler and cooler opportunity to have different partnerships. And so then we started doing them weekly at the Box. And so we did them every Saturday night at the Box for like 2 years or so before I moved to New York. And that was great too, because then it meant we had a weekly opportunity for drop-ins. So like Sam Talent and all the comedians from Denver would come down and we'd just throw them up and do all kinds of
Sam Talent?
Yeah.
Sam Talent?
Yeah, Sam Talent actually, like, I think he and I started within a couple months of each other too. So like we were like,
that dude is a monster.
Oh, he's incredible. He's unbelievable.
I adore that guy. What's his new special's name? The something Toad, the Toad's Remorse or whatever. Oh, ridiculous. That's so crazy because I had no idea he started in Denver.
Yeah.
So he would drop down into the Box and do stand up.
Yeah, I mean when we would do house shows too. Like there would be a million. We would just do it wherever we could do it.
Yeah.
And so I had my podcast for a little while called Comedy Ghost Town, and I just kind of looked into all of the why we didn't have a comedy club for so long and what we were doing instead. And there was a whole episode about house shows, and like when Sam would duck down, he'd be like, whose house are we at tonight? You know, like, and then it would just be like, it's either Greg's basement or Genevieve's house where we could do Comedians Power Hour, or we just did it the same way punk people do shows. So.
Right. So let's skip ahead a little bit, actually, because you brought it up. Why? Because there was laughs, and I heard, just from what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason why laughs had closed down, aside from monetary issues, is that just like any other Albuquerque business, due to violence.
Well, I don't know about violence. I mean, I only went to it once.
Right, crime.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was in a weird spot. That wasn't, like, it was over by cliffs in this corner. And I think the real issue was that it was too much real estate for the business that they were bringing in. So they were giving away free tickets so much, and it just wasn't shaken out to get people out of the house. But you should probably talk, I think Russ Rivas was the owner at the time, and so he's still around too. I think he does comedy still, but yeah, and then to reopen one, it takes almost literally an act of Congress, because there's so many issues with getting a liquor license in New Mexico and how difficult that is. That we had things like Catch a Rising Star, or like I've heard so many names of different franchise clubs that said that they were going to come here and try things out, and then they couldn't ever get any further than looking into how it would, like, what it would take to get a liquor license, and then they were like, wait, that is not worth it.
I heard it's a lot of political games and political chutes and ladders you have to get through to start a business. I mean, start a business here in general, but then again, take it a step up and have to get a liquor license. Like, and obviously, I want to get to all of Dry Heat in a bit, but the fact that you guys have been not only open for as long as you have, successful as long as you have, but you're doing it without a liquor license. Like, I might be wrong, just statistically speaking, but you guys are one of, if not the only, comedy club in the nation with 0 liquor license.
Yeah, I believe that is true.
Like, how does, like, it doesn't even make sense.
No.
You know what I mean? But it's obviously I'm very happy that it's happening, but holy shit, like, congrats to you guys. So why do you think after Laughs it took so long for there to be a comedy club in, let's just say, New Mexico?
Yeah.
And then we can zone into Albuquerque.
I just think it wasn't very viable. And plus, I mean, if you were one of the comedians from here who really thrived at Laughs and got big real quick, like, I don't, like Stephen Michael Casada, he's a really good example. Like, he started comedy and then he was part of the boom that took him, he got a Showtime credit within like a couple months of him doing stand-up or something like that. Something wild. Or like Dana Goldberg's another really great example of a comedian from here, and she started at Laughs, and she now does all kinds of stuff in LA. She's extremely successful. And when she would come back to Albuquerque, she would rent out the chemo and fill up the chemo, sell it out once a year,
right,
give it to a whole bunch of charity, and then like go back to LA. So it was like they didn't need the clubs anymore. And if anything, they had more success when they came through with just renting out South Broadway or the chemo or whatever, or with Stephen Michael Casada, like doing his own TV show and that kind of stuff. He got a lot out of that. And so, and not Breaking Bad, I meant like it was called the After Party, and it was his own talk show.
Oh, that's right. I heard about that. Right.
So,
right.
You know, so there wasn't anybody who really prioritized that. And then at the same time, I think stand-up itself was kind of going through a weird thing, because that was when like the comedians of comedy kind of came out, and cool comedy was happening in alternative spaces anyway. So they were all like Patton Oswalt and all of them were doing it in rock spaces and stuff like that. So when we would have people like, why am I blanking on his name? He's a comedian. He always wears this. Doug Stanhope. Doug Stanhope came here, and he didn't want to do it in a space that was like traditional, like for a traditional stand-up. He wanted it to be in a spot where all the rock concerts happen. So we put him up at the launch pad, which is crazy.
Doug Stanhope played at the. Oh my God, where the fuck have I been? What the shit?
And then and so, you know, that kind of stuff was happening anyway.
Was
so
it standing? I have to ask.
It was standing. It was standing. And you
standing?
can't imagine, his fans love him so much that they had like heart eyes on that stage with their like elbows on it, just like looking up at him. So happy to see him. Gonna like scream, laugh at everything he said, and just like do that loud man clapping and like that thing. And so they were just so excited that they didn't care. They would have stood outside, and we could have done it in like the freezing cold winter.
Yeah.
And they would have been thrilled.
That is fucking awesome. Holy crap. Okay, so, and I guess that makes sense. Everything that you just said about like what, yeah, because Laughs closes in 2014, 2015.
2009.
Or 2009,
Yep.
right. And that time period afterwards, and when you start doing comedy, all the DIY stuff, yeah, it's like comedy, really up until the pandemic, comedy really wasn't mainstream. It was always looked at as like the lower art form for some reason. Maybe it's because of the perceived simplicity of it. Like, you're just talking to a microphone. It's
Anybody
like,
could do that. I could do that.
it's like, yeah, dickbag, you go do it. And then watch them just fall flat on their face. But it's the perceived simplicity of it. And then you're right. I think, and I never really thought about it that way, but it's obvious in LA, that being the closest hub for entertainment in general, that really was like, you weren't like all the famous people over there, with very rare exception, weren't just stand-ups. Mm-hmm. They were always like, yeah, I'm an actor, or I started doing stand-up, I became an actor, but I still kind of did stand-up. Like, it's very rare to find guys that really just became club comics and just stayed being club comics. Mm-hmm. Like, the only people that really come to mind like that are like Sebastian Maniscalco. I always forget how to pronounce his name, but yeah, like Sebastian, and then really just, but even those guys who stayed club comics, they were regulars at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
And that's sounds of Albuquerque. But that was like the peak of what you could do for LA, was just being well, not just being, but being a paid regular at the Comedy Store, what else could you ask for?
Yeah. I mean, then you go on tour. Like, that's also one of those things, too, that happens in New York. Is like, you can showcase in New York, and you can get seen by a lot of industry in New York. But really, if you want to make money, then you would put together a little tour. And because of the way that things are in the Northeast, you could go to 4 different states in 45 minutes. Like, you can drive everywhere. And so, like, you could do a tour that looks like you're going to, like, 20 different cities and not be more than an hour away from home if you wanted to. And that's...
Which is more than cost effective.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Because I couldn't even imagine how, even after like with the pandemic happening and the way the economy is right now, I couldn't even imagine the cost to do a tour. And then if you're going to bring a feature with you on the road, and because I was talking to people about that, my musician friends, like, yeah, like it's tough. Like it's tough for traveling comics. If you're gonna bring a feature, you got to have 2 hotel rooms, 2 sets of meals, 2 sets of either gas or airfare or whatever it's gonna be. And you fucking quadruple that with bands. But anyway, so in your first 5 years of doing comedy before you left for New York, thinking back to that time, was there any clear indicators, big or small, where it's like, okay, I'm doing the right thing, outside of just the elation that you got from actually doing it, the landmarks or like the pats on the back, it's like, okay, I'm on the right path.
Yeah, there's lots of that. I mean, that's the best part about anything you kind of do in Albuquerque is that any steps you take make a bigger footprint than almost anywhere else in the country, like, because there's just so much. We just need, like, help. Like, you know what I mean? We just need, and no matter if anybody's willing to help, we could really use the help. And so when you're like, I'm here to help, everybody goes, oh, thank God. And then like, they just, like, will give you stuff to do. Yeah. And so, like, doing that with comedy, especially because we didn't have a club, and especially because there were people who wanted to be funny and get in front of people, like, the more you could show up and be like, let's put on a show, let's do it, or whatever, the more and further you could get. And then also... Then when people would come through town, if you could, like, at the drop of a hat, put a show together for people, like, with people who'd be trying to do their, like, I'm doing 50 states in 50 days, and New Mexico's driving me crazy because I can't get up anywhere. And we'd be like, oh, no problem. And we just, like, call up a bar or the box or whatever, and we get it in there. And then, so then that helped me build even the teeniest, tiny start of a network that helped me as soon as I got to New York, where I could be like, hey, I'm here, and I know we haven't talked in a long time, but can I go out with you when you go to Mike's and, like, that kind of stuff? And so knowing all of that and, like, trying to build that kind of stuff, now that I'm, like, on the other end of it, I, like, try so hard to make sure that everybody has that, like, in buckets, because whatever their next step is, I want them to have a full toolbox, is what I always say. But
that's awesome.
Doing it and learning at the time before I moved to New York, it was so crazy, too, because I was so burnt out, and I wanted just to get to New York and just be a joke teller, and that was it. And then I got there, and I realized that it's the exact same thing, where it was just like, oh, can you produce a show? Can you do this? Can you help? We need help. Like, the more you can show up and do all the other stuff, the more you end up, like, growing your network and also getting stage time yourself and getting on your own stage that you're creating these shows for and finding these niches. And I like a premise show where you've got to do, like, weird homework before you can, like, I like the roast battles because it's neat to see people write jokes. and you have to do it for the roast battles.
Let's be real. It's awesome watching people shit talk, and it's even better watching them shit talk effectively.
Yes, and when you can just see it where it's like, oh man, they've been stalking that person all week.
Like there's a joke, I know it's in the last one between Trip and Dave, and I want to say it was Dave to Trip, where he called him a stay-at-home dog dad. That has stuck with me because it's so simple and it fits so well. Like, it's watching stuff like that, and then that Evan was talking about, like, the shared experience. Like, yeah, the roast battles are a beautiful fucking thing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So you said it a couple of times, networking. How soon into regularly doing stand-up did it become clear to you that networking is going to be pretty much make it or break it for doing not only just entertainment, but stand-up especially, being a part of that community? Not necessarily knowing the right people, but making yourself available to the right people, and then just... even for the people in the community who aren't considered the right people, still lending them a hand and still, like, making yourself available. Everything that encompasses networking. How soon into doing stand-up did that become evident to you?
Well, when it was one of those things where I was like, okay, we don't have a club, but there's still stand-up here in New Mexico. How do we tell people that there's stand-up here in New Mexico? Like, how do we make this beacon that like shouts out to the world, like, it's, you can come here, you can perform here, like, people who are here right now, there's stand up for you to try. There's an open mic that you can get up at and see if this works for you, because this is something that I care about and love so much in a town that I care about and love so much, that like, how do we just make this as loud as possible and get as much awareness around us as humanly possible? And it seemed like the easiest way to do that was when people came in from out of town, to show them a really good time. And then hopefully they would leave going, Albuquerque was great. I didn't expect it. We did shows at a weird art gallery or this man's basement, and it was the best time I've ever had. They fed me. They made sure that I got paid. The people were super nice and smart, and it was the best time I ever had. And so like that, as far as like networking is concerned, that was just my first priority. It was just like we need as much awareness as we can get our hands on, and that meant both in the city, and that meant with greater. So just getting that and just figuring out what that meant and wrapping my head around that just very quietly and passively taught me like, oh, you should probably know people, because the more you know people, the more they can help, or you can help them, or you just stay connected. And when you, after a while of doing stand-up, you just realize how small of a community it really is, and like the steps between you and the people that you think are like the goats are so, there's nothing between you and those people.
Why do you say that? Because, and again, not only because of the outside perspective on like the steps, and I'm gonna really exaggerate that, but like the steps between a open micer to Dave Chappelle. Yeah, you know what I mean? Is massive.
Not really.
Well, from outside perspective, it looks massive, right? Yes. And then it's also like, and then, I mean, and Rogan talks about it ad nauseum, but you know, I feel like back then, obviously outsider looking in, it's really looking from like. Really up until the internet and podcasting and independent media, let's call it that, like the independent media, it's always like, okay, well, you had to get on the Tonight Show. You had to get on Letterman. You had to get on whatever late night talk show, or like we talked about a little bit earlier, you go to New York and you get on SNL, or you go to LA and you get like an acting gig or a modeling gig, or you get like whatever it is, provided that you're using stand-up as a bridge to bigger things, whatever that is, right? But then for the people that are just sticking with stand-up, staying in that lane, yeah, there's like it kind of looks like a path. Like, okay, you go from an open mic to maybe you get a couple opening spots, and you might get a couple features. You stay in the feature for a while, and then you get a headlining, whatever it is. But then there's so much intangible, like luck and opportunity, and it's like, and that's never going to go away. Yeah. But so then when you say something like, you know, the steps between where you are and where you think is so big is small, because obviously you have a lot of experience in the industry and in that, in the field, I guess. I don't know how to really describe it. So what makes you say that? Because again, that's just such a big claim.
Well, the fun thing about stand-up comedy is that it's the Wild West. There's no HR, which sometimes is a problem, but also like there's no career path either. So it's like people think that it's that. People think that it's open mics, then you get picked by the Claw, and then all of a sudden now you're on shows, and then you start as an opener, then you get to be a feature, then you get a headliner, and then you're a headliner in a club that you get passed at, or like, and there's gatekeepers who are allowing you to be like, now you've done it good enough and for long enough that you get to do this next step or whatever. Yeah. But that's not real. And that is not the case for a lot. I mean, if you look at Sam Tallent's actually a very perfect case of this. So like he started and he worked in independent rooms and planned his own tours for years and years and years. One of the hardest working, like, road dogs. He can come up with 40 minutes on the spot, and it'll be the funniest thing you've ever seen, and it's literally on the spot. So it'll be like, that guy's hat, and then, like, 10 or something minutes about this guy's hat and, like, what that means and the city he's in or whatever. But then it was because of that he could never get a tape, you know? So then, like, you'd see this man and your life would be changed by the end of the show. But there was a thing where, like, industry wasn't with him quite. They couldn't quite figure out. He couldn't replicate it in the exact same way over and over and over again, which was great for him ultimately because then he wrote his book. And then really what it was is he got on the roast battles, and that was his TV credit, you know? So then he had this Comedy Central credit. Then all of a sudden everything snowballed so quickly because he was so talented and so good and so ready to go that, like, it just, like, bloomed and blossomed. And now he is on every podcast and doing his own specials whenever he wants to, and he can because he could literally put out 40 minutes tomorrow and it will be very, very good, and it can go on YouTube and it will go viral. Right. And he deserves to be on Marin and on Rogan and on all these things because everybody knows, and he's built this entire career off of like really connecting with everybody in all the towns that he's gone to. And so he is the people's champion where everybody wants him to be successful and is ready to do it and ready to help him.
So maybe I was understanding you wrong. So right now, the steps between where you are and where you want to be is a lot shorter, like right in the moment.
No, I mean, it's also one of those things too where it's like, I mean, it is a bit about like, oh, technology puts you on the same level as everybody else or all those things that you hear too. But it's like when I moved to New York, you can't even imagine because the people who have been on The Tonight Show and who write for SNL or whatever are just as bored and looking for stuff to do on a Tuesday as everybody else is. And so you'll do a show in a karaoke bar, basement, and then it'll have like a Parna Nanchala, or like people will just be on the show with you, and so like immediately you're meeting people who have huge Comedy Central credits who are part of the next thing that you want. And so then as long as you don't detract from the show, that's always my goal when I was in New York, was like, I just don't want to be the worst one. And then as long as you're like nice to them and make small talk, then usually you kind of pal around and they remember you, and then stuff comes out of it, and then you can ask them to come be on your shows and that stuff too. And so, and then when that's the case, and then they are friends with people like Dave Chappelle or whatever, like,
right,
they can just drop in and do whatever. And so it's a much smaller. That doesn't mean necessarily that Dave Chappelle's going to be like, I pick you,
right.
You come on the road with me, or anything like that. But at the same time, like you can meet all these people very easily, and you can perform right next to them very, very easily.
Yeah.
And you can build a whole career out of that and just experiencing all that.
Outside looking in, to me, it looks like a lot of what will determine your success in stand-up. Like, obviously, okay, you have to be funny. That is kind of
that's the number one. That's like the tallest.
That is like the given, right? But it has to be said. Mm-hmm. You have to be funny. But then it's your approach, like your approachability, your work ethic, the willingness you have to put yourself out there and meet new people, and not just like check off your time and bounce out. Mm-hmm. Like actually spend time in those spaces and meet people and network like that. But then also it seems to me that a lot of like, how do I put this? Like, it seems like the gates are kind of opening for a lot more people to be successful with stuff like this, because when I think of like the industry leaders right now in comedy, especially with how Austin is exploding right now, the attitude to me, and also talking to my friends that are doing comedy right now in Austin, that know people that are doing comedy in Austin right now, it's a lot of like, if you're funny, nobody gives a shit if you've been doing it for 15 years or 15 minutes.
Exactly.
If you're funny, you're funny, which is why something like Kill Tony is so massively famous, because someone who like fucking Heath Cordes, the little kid who's apparently 21.
That's what he said.
He gets up there and smashes, and now he's playing arenas with Hinchcliffe. Or like Cam Patterson, same thing. And it's just funny seeing all that type of stuff, and it makes it more welcoming, I think, but then it also really puts, I think, an emphasis on people that want to do it for the long term, want to make a career out of it. It really puts in, okay, well, if you're going to go out and do it, you should really go out and do it. You really have to put your A game on, and even if you fail miserably, as long as you're doing it earnestly, I feel like that helps set you apart anyway from anybody else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, even just like as a booker and a producer and as the person at Dry Heat, it's like I don't have time for people who are like saying like pee pee poo poo on the like on the mic for like 5 minutes straight. I don't have time for that. But I do have time for the people who show up and it's like, wow, they have a notebook that they wrote thoughts in, like, and they are like, oh right, yes, well, let's get you like more of those. Like, let's get you as many of those opportunities to get you to your next level that you need. Like, and you can see it pretty quickly in the way that people show up if they're like helpful and respectful on top of working to be funny. That goes such a long way.
I was going to ask you this a little bit later, but because we're on the subject, the emphasis of being on time in court, being on time, being professional, and being punctual. How, again, because not only are you a stand-up comedian, you're a business owner, you're a booker, you're a producer, professionally. How important is that to you when you're booking shows, when you're picking people for lineups? Like, talk on like the emphasis of that.
I think Kelly and I, we try to de-emphasize that as much as we can, because we also understand that we're dealing with a bunch of like artsy dum-dums, you know? So like sometimes you because you want to work so hard on your art or whatever, the other stuff, that like executive functioning stuff gets away from you in a way. And so we try really hard not to be like, you're late all the time, so we'll never book you again. But at the same time, if you can't control the funny part quite yet, you can absolutely control when you show up and how you like, and if you help put chairs away or that kind of stuff too. Like you can control that stuff a lot, and you can control taking pictures of the show while the show is going on and contributing those as like a help and like that kind of stuff. Like,
well, I'm saying through the lens of like, say you have a show booked and it's just for argument's sake, it's a standard show, opener, feature, closer, headliner, and the feature and the headliner, they're on time.
Yeah,
they're 15-20 minutes early.
And we're all waiting.
But your opener is late. It's like, okay, and let's be frank, if the people, like if Zachabeta, it's a Zachabeta and friends, if that dude's on time and the fucking opener is late, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
that's not exactly going to get you kudos to get rebooked somewhere, and because that's always what's been told to me by people who've been doing just entertainment for a long time is like the number one thing you can be is professional and timely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always something in your control, and that's one of those things too, where it's like just. If you can do it and you know that the person wants that from you, do it. Like sometimes I get really upset when comedians like won't do the assignment too, where it's like, okay, just come on this night, be here. We're all it's a roast battle. Okay, let's say it. Let's even say that. Okay, and then they will come. They don't even know the person that they're up against, and then you can see it the second they're on stage, where they're just like hopefully gonna make fun of that person and what they're wearing from like top to bottom, and you're like, this was not a good plan for you. This is bad. And then they don't use the mic the right way, or like, they just like fumble so bad, and then you're literally being compared to the person right next to you.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you take care of the stuff that you can control, knowing that person is now there to eviscerate you on top of it?
I was going to say, like, if it's one thing to be, speaking from current experience, it's one thing to be a shitty writer, but it's another thing to not try.
Right.
It's like, well, at least they tried to make jokes. They didn't watch the nice shoes, you fucking loser. Like,
and you're like, come on. Yeah. So that kind of stuff. It's like, just do the assignment. If the assignment is to do stand-up comedy, don't do a character unless it's like a character with like bits that are done in a stand-up comedy way.
What you're doing. Yeah. Right. So, all right. First 5 years, the time is coming where you decide ultimately I'm going to go to New York. Mm-hmm. What was the thought process? What was the chain of events so we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but your sights were always on New York because of that, because of the attitude towards comedy, which makes perfect sense, especially in the way you outlined it. Perfect sense. Well, what was the last 12 months leading up to it, 9 months, 6 months, where you're like, okay, no, this is the time for me? Like, were there boxes you were checking for yourself, or?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious one was that I went through a really, really, really bad breakup, like really bad. And it was with a comedian that I was a co-producer with. And so then it made me just want to like flip a table about like New Mexico comedy in general, just being like, no, if that means that, no. And so that one was a big one. And then I ended up getting to visit New York one time because I was in a new relationship, and my friend Brett, who I mentioned earlier, was living there, and he hated New York. He hated it so much. And I was so in love with New York the second I like got off the bus and like stepped into it, and it was exactly like I had 2 suitcases. Like it was like a full like dream.
Starry-eyed.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I was like, well, okay, I love this so much. He hates it so much. He's my friend, so I know at least if I move here, I've got a good friend. And I can make him like it. I know I can make this. If I'm here and I'm so excited about it, he's going to just love it.
That is the plot of, and I feel like you've seen it. That is the plot of Crashing.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%.
That is the plot of Crashing with Pete and Artie Lang.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't mind me asking, what made your friend, what was that dichotomy? Like, what was it that made him dislike New York so much?
Well, he's in film, so he moved out here. He moved out to New York because he could get a lot of film work, and he was like a gripper, and now he's an electrician or something like that. So, he did it because he was getting work constantly, and he did it because he knew he wanted to be someplace that wasn't Denver or New Mexico. But then he was there during Hurricane Sandy, and so like it was just like during like this devastation of a city and like all this stuff too. And so then it was just really hard to get his footing and everything. And he is well known in Denver comedy, and he is well known here whenever he comes here. We're like just treat him like a king and all that stuff. But in New York, that it wasn't quite clicking the same way or as quickly. And so but he's so funny. So it drove me crazy that was the case for him at that time too. So then that was the other thing too, is like, well, if I move here, we'll produce shows together. We'll get things going that way and like keep things moving. And we did. We produced shows that had like crazy people on it, like Chris Gethard and like all like immediately, like, and it was just like, what are we? This is wild. I cannot believe we can just like Facebook DM somebody who, like my first night in New York, I got to do a show at Gotham, and the host of that show.
Your first night?
Yeah, my first night. It was wild.
Talk about a welcoming party.
I know. And the host of that show was Mike Kaplan, who is literally at the time that I moved, and still to this day, one of my all-time favorite comedians. He was who I wanted to win Last Comic Standing when he was on it. I owned his album and wore it out on like road trips the same way that everybody did with like Dane Cook's album and all that stuff too. Like I listened to him. And so when he was the host of the show and I was like doing a set on, I was like, it blew my mind. And so for that to happen like right away, it was like this kind of like paradigm shift of like, okay, cool. Like let's.
There's real possibilities here.
And
right. So I guess so back to my original question, what was the process that led to you like deciding? So it was bad breakup happened and all that. What were the professional aspects of it, right?
Well, Sam got me shows in New York when I went to go visit. So I got to do like the Cobra Club and a whole bunch of really cool kid shows in Brooklyn. And I was like, this is great. These are bar shows also. And these are with cool people who are doing cool things. And Brooklyn's where I want to live. And so I came back home and like literally just started like packing up my things like as soon as I got home from the airport.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is going to be it. This is going to. And I told everybody. And I started just fundraising. Like I would sell water bottle, like the box. I cannot sing their praises high enough. I love the Box Performance Space and Improv Theater downtown. They're awesome. But they would buy water bottles from me at like the cost they would have sold them at. And then just put them in their fridge. And then I made labels, like they were literally from Costco. And so I made labels that were this exact size. And then they said like, hey, I'm moving to New York. Help me out with my GoFundMe. And it had like a link on it. So not only did I get money from the box helping me fundraise, then they would sell these to people who'd be like, what's going on with this? And like figure out, and then like help me in that way. And then we did a couple like farewell shows and a roast and like all kinds of stuff to help me get a few more dollars. I cashed out my 401k from Dion's. And I just got there, and then I got there with like, again, like 2 bags.
Yeah.
And then I lived on Brett's couch for a month, and then I got my first apartment from a guy from Albuquerque who I knew barely, Lucas, who's so amazing, and he's a stunt double guy, and he's really cool. And he was moving back to Albuquerque, and he was like, just take over my lease.
That's awesome.
And it was in Williamsburg, which is where I wanted to live. And then everybody who I knew from Albuquerque who was out there was like so excited to be like, I'm out here too. Let's meet up. Let's go get coffee. What do you want to do? Like, and so just having the loosest group of people who were at least remotely interested in me being out there also like helped me get my first apartment, helped me get my first job, helped me get like everything just taken care of. And so that was the other reason why I was like, oh, networking is obviously important because even these like loose connections I have are what.
That's also a New Mexico thing.
Yeah, it's 1,000% a New Mexico
like
thing.
That's like if you. Yeah, New Mexicans find each other like that. And it's like, oh, okay. You've been through the shit too. Come here. All right, let's figure it out. Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. Holy shit. So you get to New York and you spend 5 years out there. How did comedy progress for you then? And then where did it start to turn into? Okay, maybe it's time to come back to New Mexico.
So I worked when you do comedy in Albuquerque, eventually you can pay the bills with comedy or comedy adjacent things. So like you really can like make your whole rent and groceries and life off of comedy, trivia, hosting, like I was doing social media for a nonprofit as like a side gig too. And
I was gonna say, define comedy adjacent.
Yeah, so like things where it's like, just like talking into a mic for whatever reason, and so the nonprofits also let me host lots of like events that I would go to and be like, okay, well this person is a special guest, and let's give it up for them, and like fancy formal ones as well as doing goofy, whatever other ones, but you can definitely get away with that for a long time here, and in New York. You have to have a full-time job and do comedy at the same time, unless you are a trust fund kid or what you have other means. Or you're able to like score a writing job where that's your job and comedy is your job now. And it's at least at the beginning, I knew I had to like figure out a full-time job. So I met Kyle Ayers. Do you know him? He's a comedian in LA, and he's very, very funny. And
I've heard the name, but I couldn't put a face to it.
He got me a job at the Apple Store, because also if you can get somebody a job at the Apple Store and you already work there, you get a huge, huge recruitment bonus. Like, I mean, he got like $3,000, I think, by getting me hired. So I worked with him, but there was a bunch of comedians who worked at that Apple Store in particular, and so I got a chance to, like, I don't know, pal around with them a little bit and go to mics with them after work and that stuff too. But anytime that I could take time off of work and just focus on comedy solely, the growth that happened was just like unbelievable. So it happened in these little itty bitty pockets over 5 years. So the nice thing about living in New York was that we had an apartment that wasn't zoned for residential living. And so we didn't have a fire escape or whatever, which made it very illegal for them to be renting it to us. And Brett figured it out, because eventually I moved back in with Brett, and Brett was my roommate for a long time. But Brett figured it out, called their bluff, and then didn't pay rent for 5 years. So I moved in with him, and I lived there for 3 years, not paying rent. We were just squatting in this very fancy Brooklyn apartment. And it's the best. I mean, if you could do that, and it's very easy to do it in New York, by the way. There's a bunch of places that are not zoned properly.
That is beautiful. Oh my! I mean, because people would go, well, you're fucking over the landlord. So, well, no, the landlord started it.
Yeah.
You're just evening the playing ground.
And if there was a fire, we would have died. So there were no fire escapes in this place. Like, it was not zoned correctly and not built correctly. So, that's just one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Fair enough. Yeah, deal that Uno card. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good for you.
So, there'd be a couple times where I'd be like, okay. And then when I got in my relationship, and then all three of us lived together, then sometimes I would work, or sometimes I wouldn't have to work, and it would be so much easier that way. And we would give each other the chance to kind of catch up on our respective creative fields. So the first time I got to take a break, I started producing the Laughing Devil and Devil Cup and She Devil festivals with Steve Hofstetter. And that was really where I got to meet all these people from all over the country that I still connect with. And we've gotten to bring a bunch of them to Dry Heat, which is very cool. And then I think the time after that is when I got to be on the Today Show and on MTV and on SiriusXM.
Oh, shit.
And then the time after that, I think there was a third time where something else really cool and awesome happened. But I just would build these these credits in the in-between times, and then I have to go back to work for a little while to catch up, and then I'd get to take some time off. And
let's define a credit really quick. Mm-hmm. Just for people listening, what opportunities would lend themselves okay, yeah, I can now say that I've done this.
Yeah. So
what's the the barrier to entry for that, the threshold for that?
It depends on a couple of them. I was on SiriusXM because I knew a guy with a show on it, and so when he had an opening, I got to do it with him on his show, and then I got to do John Fugelsang's show one time too, so that was pretty cool. And then, everything that's ever happened has been because I just knew people.
Well, that's the currency of not just entertainment, but it's become very clear to me that's the currency of stand-up.
And that was the thing, too, with the festivals, is that we had to have industry judges because we tell people, you get to perform in front of industry. So then I got to get to know a bunch of casting agents and managers and people who wrote for TV already or that kind of stuff. And so then I had that relationship with them, and that's how I got my manager in New York. And so then because of that, I got to submit packets for, Colbert, and Michelle Wolf was going to have a show for a while, and I submitted. And then for a couple of years, I was submitting to SNL, and getting those opportunities came the same way too.
Do you have to have a manager to submit for stuff like SNL or Just for Laughs, New Faces or stuff? Do you have to have a manager for stuff like that?
So yes and no. So a lot of them, yeah, but some of them you can still stumble upon, or for Just for Laughs, there's repped and then there's unrepped. So I got to audition for JFL because I was repped, and so I had 5 minutes at the Creek in the Cave with murderers. I couldn't. I was looking at the lineup, being what are we doing? What am I doing on this show?
What names do you remember?
Jess Tom was there, and they had we used to do shows together a lot. And then Samantha Ruddy, who is one of my favorites, she was also there. And then they had flown people in from LA to get on this New York one because it was the one that they thought was going to be the easiest for their client or whatever. And so lots and lots of people.
Oh my God, that just clicked.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And so I was like, this is crazy. And the same thing too with it's like I got to put my manager's name at the top of the packets that I wrote, and then since I moved back here, I don't get those opportunities as much. And I tried to figure out like how do you get access? I think that there's like I don't know, like an email chain or some way to like if you are a manager or an agent that you get to hear about these things, but I can't quite tap into like what is that on the back end that would allow, because I've thought about it here is like I would love to be a manager or an agent at some point, because I have an agent here and she gets me the opportunity to do a lot of acting roles and audition for things, but we don't really have any and that's not true, because Peter is also a fantastic agent, and he gets also acting roles and stuff like that too, but we don't really have like a writing agent that gets everybody packets and the opportunity to open for people at the convention center and like those kind of things too.
Well, it seems like a lot of across entertainment fields here, if it seems to me that a lot of opportunities that would be in just in New Mexico in general get filled by importing talent in. They don't really source from local. Do you feel like that'd be the case for the most part?
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where it's like I think well, I know this because like okay, my friend Steven Rogers is Brian Regan's feature. So when he goes on the road, Brian brings him with him. So there's no need to pull locally.
Right.
But I always think that that's a disservice to the show. I think it's better, even if it's a big name, to have somebody with like just even 5 minutes of making it feel like you're still part of the city that you're in.
Right. And you also bring the audience in that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it means a lot to those comedians too to get those opportunities also. So
it gives them a goal to shoot for.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so important that you know that Dry Heat exists, that Quesadas exists, and now they're getting Hyenas. Now that in theory, the people that are here doing stand up now they say, okay, well, if I'm not just going to be banging my head against a proverbial wall, hoping to either save up enough money to leave or just to be good enough to stay at either, you know, just to continue doing whatever I think that I'm doing. No, it's like, no, I could have the opportunity to do, you know, I could get an opening or a feature set, maybe even a headlining set at Dry Heat, or I could go get attached to a bigger act that's coming through at Quesadas or at Hyenas when that opens up. And I mean, credit where it's due. I think that Quesadas did the right thing, and when they held the opening, or like for lack of a better term, the tryout, right? I know there are dissenting opinions on how that went down, but I think by and large it was a good thing. And I think the more, especially for a culture like New Mexico, the more inclusion you have of the local comedians that are doing it on a regular basis, you bring in the local crowd and you make that crowd in the show feel like they're a part of it more, because then you get to say, yeah, and your opener is blah, 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 blah. You can see him all around your city. So if you like the guy enough or the girl enough, and they're going and they're doing a set at Dry Heat, or they're doing a set at wherever, or if they're at a fucking open mic, now you get to see them. That's awesome. And then that gives, obviously, like I just said, you get those people the goals to look at, and then these bigger acts that are coming through. It's like, oh, New Mexico has legit people that are doing it. We're not just a flyover state anymore.
Exactly.
I don't know anything about agents. I don't know anything about managers. But it seems to me, it seems to me that there are like levels to agencies, and there's levels to managers, and like, you're talking about networking as a currency, like how well connected they are. From your point of view, when you're submitting for stuff like SNL, or you're submitting for stuff like JFL, or whatever it is, even like the late shows or whatever, do you ever get the perception that people will get looked at more, or they will get picked based off who they're represented by rather than their own skill? Because I feel like that could be a misconception or a properly based judgment on just the entertainment industry in general.
Well, I mean, there's huge agencies that, like, if you get picked up by them, it means something. So I think like CAA or whatever that one is, or there's like big ones, you know, and like
because they're like a trusted name.
Yeah. But I also think a lot of it, and I think with the writer's room knows who's submitting to things or whatever, and they're also usually out doing comedy also. So if you're connected with them, then they can probably be like, oh, I know that person, I know they're very funny. And like you can't even, it's the same thing as any job really, where it's like if you can get a vouch, that means the world. And so
that's exactly how Zach put it too.
Yeah.
That's exactly how he put it too. So you're out in New York, you're doing stand up. A lot of the culture, and again, this is entertainment in general, but specific for stand up, you're going out to mics, going out to shows, staying out late, a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs are happening. It's just the culture is what it is. But because of how seriously you're taking comedy, how did you find yourself balancing the professional aspect of it and the social aspect of it? Like, how did you find yourself weaving through all that?
I think I did okay. I look back on it sometimes, and I think I could have showed face a little bit more. Like on the nights that I didn't have a show, I could have gone to the shows that were the big ones that you're always aiming to get on. And I think, I don't know, I think I was a little shyer than I wish I had been. Because even if I did go to those shows and I was hanging out, I wouldn't be like trying to be like, handshakes, what's up, and go hang out in the corner where they all are. I would just be like kind of in their eye line and be like, see, I was here, and then like duck out as soon as I could do it. But like,
so it sounds like substances were never really a like an issue.
No, I mean, because I don't do any. I don't even smoke weed. But like, I don't. So, but I like to drink, so I can do it very socially, and I can. And usually, like, we had a goal with ourselves where we would be out at night and we'd try to get home by the time the Empire State Building turned off. And that's usually about 1 a.m. So we would try to be home while it was still double digits. But then we had to be up by like 6 a.m. to like get ready and go to work or whatever, which is still completely doable. But when you are like going to 5 mics a night, which you can do, and then you're kind of like obligated to get a drink from the bar at every one of them, and then like within 5 mics, you've had 5 drinks, and then that's supposed to be every single night. And then, like, you know, and so then some of the nights that you'd have off, you'd be like, shh, quiet, no. Yeah. Just gonna drink some water and take a nap.
Water, Sandy.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, but then those are the nights that you were supposed to, like, I guess, write jokes, which I was doing. And I also, you know, worked on a pilot and, you know, whatever I could do. And I think I submitted cards to Cards Against Humanity once. I would do anything.
What the fuck? You can do that?
Yeah, they would do submissions the same way they would do packets. So like you would write white cards and black cards and then submit them, and we would play test them with like other coworkers that I had at my like startup jobs that were also comedians. We would get together and like play our Cards Against Humanity.
That is awesome. I gotta say, so I looked at some of your older stand up that's on YouTube, and you had a joke. And it was fucking hilarious. I don't know when you were telling us where you were, but you're describing LGBT
as a sandwich.
As a sandwich. It was like, I don't want to butcher it. It was like lettuce, bacon, guacamole, transgender. Oh my god, great joke. That was fucking awesome. So. Because again, I only asked a question about like a lot of drinking and like substances and stuff like that because it just seems to be so ingrained in the culture. Mm-hmm. And again, like I hear about in places like LA and New York where, because like here in New Mexico, the mics are free.
Yeah.
You can just show up, sign up, whatever. But there's also some open mics where they're called like the bringers, where you have to bring people, or you have to pay to get in. Or if you sign up for the mic, you're obligated to buy a drink or two, like that type of stuff. So did you run into any of that where like those type of open mics that weren't just a general like free entry, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the thing too, where it's like if I needed a tape or if I knew my audition was coming up, then I would just try to do as many mics as I could in a week. And that would mean you'd have to go to the ones that are $5 and a drink at the bar. And you'd be like, just scam. But you'd get there and you'd do your time and you'd bolt to the next one and like kind of just move through New York that way. And so... But I mean, I guess I saw other people really, and maybe that's why I wasn't cool enough to get further in comedy or whatever, because I wasn't going to party and I didn't know. I literally couldn't even tell you if Coke was at a party, even if it so clearly was. And there'd be a million times that Brett and I would leave and he'd be like, "Oof, that was crazy." And I was like, "What do you mean that was crazy?" And he was like, "There was Coke everywhere at that." And I would be like, "There was?" Like, I had this like blissfully Mormon experience of New York. That like I just kind of.
I mean, longevity speaking, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know what I mean? It's like not necessarily a knock on your experience at all. I'm just imagining people. How are you doing, Sarah?
Great! It's so exciting to talk to you. Like just like we should open a bar. Like just fully me doing it in earnest. Like You're right. These are great business ideas. Let's do it.
That's fucking hilarious. So as your time is closing out in New York, when did it become, hey, I might want to go back to New Mexico? When did that pendulum start to shift the other way?
So we have this really cool nonprofit here called Arts Hub, and it's really cool. And it's run by these guys that I went to college with, and they just kind of saw this opportunity where a lot of art happens in New Mexico, and a lot of art happens specifically in Albuquerque. And the artists here still need support and help and resources and all kinds of stuff. And so one of them is very good at writing grants. The other one is like really good at like tech stuff. And they both have just a really good mind for like seeking out what is needed and providing that. And so they had started that nonprofit. And then out of their research and all this stuff that they had done, they figured out that the comedians needed a festival because they weren't going to have a club anytime soon. And festivals were kind of really popping at the time too, and so it was a great way to allow them to network, bring somebody big in, like connect the stand-ups with the improvisers, and like just kind of keep that camaraderie going. And I got to headline that one of the first ones that they did, and so they like flew me in, and it was like my first chance to really connect with the comedians who had really kind of come up while I was gone. Besides the ones that I already knew, and every time I would come back for like Christmas or whatever, I'd hang out with them. But
Right.
So I'm hanging out and I'm like noticing like, holy these guys are like driven and funny and
What
really.
year is this?
It was 2019 because it was 2019. So early. And I was like, this is so cool. My brother had just had my second nephew who was just about to be like really a fun age and like running around. And my mom hated that I was in New York the whole time anyway. So when I would come to visit, you would just see it in her eyes like, please stay. And so we had such a good time at that festival. We were walking around and we were like, it's so cheap here still. And comedy's in a really good spot here. I'm in a good spot with comedy. And then we were like, okay. And we just got engaged and we were going to plan this wedding. And so we were like, okay, we want to get married in Albuquerque because our family is way closer here. And it also would be really cool to bring a bunch of New Yorkers out here because then they could see the sky and like all this like beautiful stuff that we've got out here. It's such a small thing, but it's a huge deal. And so we were like, okay, we'll move back for a year and then we'll plan the wedding, have the wedding, and we'll move right back to New York. And I even I had it with my job that I was coming back in a year. Everything was like set for this exact amount of time to happen. And we
Where were
moved
you
back
working at the time?
at Lemonade Insurance.
Okay.
It's a startup, but now they're publicly traded. They're fun. We moved back in July of 2019. And then the day that we were at the Tamaya, which is where our wedding was going to take place, and we brought our final deposit for it to be our wedding venue in March of 2020. My dad's Apple Watch was blowing up because his stock was tanking and everything, the news was like going crazy about what was about to happen, and the entire world just like shut down. And we were like, oh, are we going to get married? Like, is the world ending right now? And then,
oh my God.
And then, so instead of us leaving after a year, we had to stay like, we were just here for a lot longer than we had planned. And then
New York is the last fucking place
no. Yeah,
you wanted to be for COVID.
Yeah.
I remember, I'll be real. I'm not afraid to admit this. There was a small time during the COVID pandemic where it kind of like freaked me out a little bit. It's like, oh shit. Like, motherfuckers are, like, dying. Like, I'm sure everyone saw it. The videos and pictures of just body bags in the streets, hospitals being flooded and overfilled. They're using parking garages as parked up, or as,
tents
popped up tents for, like, pop-up medical shit. And it's like, oh, is New York, it's I Am Legend.
Yeah.
Like, are they going to survive? Is this the zombies? Is this it?
We had a friend who lived on the Upper East Side, and he lived 2 blocks away from Central Park, and he lived 2 blocks away from one of the hospitals. And he said the only thing you could hear on the street were sirens all day long. And when he would walk his dog, it would be going past this, like, makeshift morgue in the park. Yeah. And so he was just like, what are we doing? And so I'm so thankful that we were here when all of this happened.
Just in time.
Yes.
They wouldn't have let you leave.
No, and I already had a new job and like everything. We were already like settled. We were ready to go here when this all happened. So it wasn't even a thing where it was like, we got to get out of New York as fast as possible or anything like that. We were already here. So I'm very grateful that was the case. But it was also one of those things where we were like, and so like I started an online talk show where it was like I would, and it was through StreamYard, and the Box sponsored me, and I always had a New York comic and like a local comic, and I would have like segments with them, and I would make them play games with each other or whatever, and we would do, which is great because if I'm going to write a packet for the Tonight Show, I always have to have like desk bits or whatever. So I was like coming up with all these little games that we could play and do these like little weird things, and I thought that would, number one, we're doing the stuff I always want to do, where I'm trying to connect everybody, and I'm staying connected and making stuff for people, and but then it was like, well, we bought our condo, and then we did get married, and then a block away from the condo, this yoga studio went out of business. And at the exact same time that all that was happening, my podcast was ending about why we didn't have a comedy club. And then all of a sudden, the city was offering these grants to open businesses downtown, and so then all these things just kind of like, whoop. And so we were like, well, we'll just open the comedy club. And then we're like, and then now it's like, well, we still go back to New York like 2 or 3 times a year, and when I'm out there, I still perform and I do things, but it's like, we got goals and projects and stuff going on here that we got to do. So,
and when I say this is not to take away from, because you're fucking hilarious. I just said that in the outset, but you're funny. You are very funny.
Thank you.
And you're very talented at what you do. But as I'm hearing you talk about your time in comedy and from start till right when you open Dry Heat, the underlying theme has always been the managerial producer. Like, it seems to be no matter where you are, what you're doing, that's what you're finding. You find yourself in that slot. So it makes perfect sense that as these ducks start to get in the row, it's like, okay, this makes the most sense. I've been building up to this anyway. I mean, have up until you opened Dry Heat with Kelly, had you ever run your own small business? Had you done any, or was that like the biggest? Because you're already producing shows, you're already booking talent. So as a soft skill byproduct of that, you're scouting talent. You're understanding like what type of comedic styles can be matched together for a show, or if you're trying to do it purposefully, put opposite comedic styles against each other for a show. You're understanding how to build a comedy show that is not only fun for comics, but it's fun for the audience, general audiences. Again, you have to get asses in seats anyway, so it's you should probably play to an audience. But you're understanding all of these skills and how to put them together, building your own toolbox, right? As much as you want to do that for others, you've been doing it for yourself, either passively or actively. So building the comedy club, it made perfect sense. What were those conversations like when it's like, okay, no, we're actually going to do it now? Aside from everything lining together, the city's giving opportunities for grants anyway. This spot just opened up, and we can make this work. What were the final conversations like? No, we're going to invest time and money into doing this.
Well, it's hard because I would say, like, even before I moved to New York, I would go any spot I go into, I would put the comedy show in that corner, and I would face the chairs this way or whatever. And then it becomes kind of a bigger thing where I would go and just like look in the windows of these like closed, empty buildings downtown and just be like, I would do a comedy club in here. I could easily do this in here. And then figure out like, okay, we obviously need to take care of how high the ceilings are, like whatever. But like,
I laughed just because that's one of my favorite running jokes on Kill Tony right now. Because they shit on Red Band for his high ceilings. I think it's hilarious.
It's such a thing. But then I've done it so much and so often, and even the clubs in New York, if Brett and Kelly were with me, I'd be like, well, see, we would do this in Albuquerque. We would copy this thing from here and this from there, and we could make it to where it's like it's open the same way, and if only we could have alcohol, I think it would be like, so like the conversations just happen in a way that is just constant. And so but I've always done it. I've always said that trying to open up a comedy club was like me trying to do a pull-up. Like I literally I've never,
come on.
not once in my life, not even during like the presidential challenge or whatever in like PE or what, I could never do a pull-up.
Oh my God.
No matter how much I struggled.
Vacation Bible School. Motherfucker. And now the president, I was such a unathletic twig up until like college. A pull-up in middle school or even like beginning of high school. Yeah, you could have paid me $1 million and I wouldn't have been able to do it.
And so like it just felt like all this effort was being spent on nothing, brain power, body power, on nothing that I would ever be able to do. And so I kind of gave up on it, but I constantly talk about it. And so when we did see the yoga studio, Kelly was the first person who like really gave me permission to actually consider it for real. Because she was like...
In what way?
She was like, we could do this. We could really, truly do this. Do you like this space? It's so close to our house. Just consider it. Like, it would be small, but isn't that better anyway? Like, wouldn't it be better to just tell people we're sold out all the time, even though it's like small. And isn't it more intimate and cool that way in a lot of ways?
Well, and you're not lying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people can definitely just like, oh, yeah, of course it's easy to sell because they're only... Well, it's like, okay, bitch. Okay, so you're going to go, and I want you to find 50 people that are going to pay $15 to $25 for a show that they may or may not enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just saying because it's comedy, because it's local comedy. That's anything.
Mm-hmm.
I paid money to go to the movie theaters. I fucking hate half the shit that I watch now.
Yeah.
So, it's like, okay, now, and in this economy, you're going to go convince people to spend, because yes, money is tight for most people right now, but so is time. Time is the most valuable currency. So they're gonna go spend time out of their night to go do that. You go find 55 people, figure it out.
Yeah,
It's no easy task.
it's and it's one of those things too where it's like I don't know, to be in the neighborhood where our business is just such like it's a very like Beauty and the Beast kind of small towny America kind of thing to be like, I live and work in the same neighborhood. And it's kind of a dream because like all my neighbors are also all my customers. And like, it's very, it does feel very like bonjour, we have all these partnerships with these people that were also just regulars at their places also. And so...
after the show, you can hear me turning on my hot water.
Yeah, exactly. You guys will see me waving from my balcony, like a Disney character. So it's been that part of it has been easy and fun. I really like being part of downtown, and I like downtown because I live there and I care about it and I want it to do well. So to be a business there that helps it at least have a little bit more life in it or whatever, that's very fun.
Well, it's cool to have a comedy club downtown.
It's very fun.
It's cool to have, and again, say what the fuck you want about the size of it. No, you have a comedy club downtown where good comedians go, and it's fucking hilarious. And I want to get into the experiences I've had at Dry Heat in a bit, but like the fact that we have one of the things I love about the place right now is you guys still have, I think it's been since the opening, you guys still have the paper in the window that says it's a real comedy club. A real comedy. I think that is so self-actualizing and funny. It's like, yeah, it's a fucking comedy club, bitch.
Well, I watch people walk by. That's one of my favorite things to do is like when we've got the light outside and it's rotating.
Yeah.
People aren't paying attention to anything, but they'll stumble on that light and be like, what? And then they'll like look and they'll be like, what? And then they'll look up even at the thing that just says Dry Heat Comedy Club and they'll be like, what? And so to have something in the window that says, no, it's exactly what it says. It is. Like, It is that. And so then people kind of go, I didn't know. And then they just keep walking anyway. But sometimes they go, and they like stumble in.
Yeah.
Which also, because we're not on Central, we're like off Central a little bit. If you don't see our street sign, you will sometimes still see the Gobo. And then all of a sudden we look like a weird side quest. Like you could stumble into a night. Like, so people will sometimes walk over and be like, what's going on? And then we'll be like, come on in.
And so, all right, so you and Kelly started having the conversation. She's like, yeah, no, we can actually do this. When did the administrative process begin? I think that's something people need to hear as well. It's like how long you didn't just wake up one morning, say, you know what, we're going to do it today. And then tomorrow they had the club. Like, when did the first, the paperwork begin to start the comedy club?
So I will also say we are not the norm. So the story I'm about to tell you is not the norm. And you can see that in the way that Hyenas is rolling out. Like, they are the norm. We got the idea at the beginning of March.
Of
2021?
Okay.
No, it had to be 2022. 22. Then we signed a 2-year lease because that was a stipulation under the grant. And then we even wrote to the grant people being like, there's no way you guys have any of these left, right? Like, they're gone. And then they were like, no, we actually do. Please submit. And then we were like, what?
Well, you know what? Like, I have a lot of gripes with our government, both local and federal. A lot of gripes. And one of them is that, not for nothing, they have some programs that are good for the public. That is like, oh no, okay, out of any of the social programs that may or may not suck, these ones don't. Like, there are some, like, specifically for local businesses, there are some programs that they have. I'm like, oh no, I wouldn't mind putting tax dollars towards that. But the advertisement towards those programs is next to nil. And because you can look at that one way and think, okay, no, if you really want to do it, you should be researching, you should be doing your due diligence. Okay, sure. But then on the other hand, if the government really cared about our tax dollars going in the right place, you would think they would advertise like, hey, if you wanna open a small business, if you're really passionate about it, here are the programs. Here are the assistance things that we have. Here are the government funded stuff that you're already paying for. And if you really want to do this, go and do it. And now obviously I could put on the tinfoil hat thing. Well, they're not advertising it for a reason because they want to put up with it, which may or may not be there. But all of these programs, if you find them and you figure out how to use them to your advantage, it's not surprising to me at all that they didn't have a lot saved over. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it was one of those things, too, where it's like, I had been tracking it for a long time just because I was like, what an interesting thing in my neighborhood that they want. You know, like, who's going to get these things? Like, who's...
Yeah.
And so, like, we had a bakery open, and I was like, cool, local bakery. And then it was like we had a breakfast coffee shop open, and I was like, cool, something's in the... like the art bar space, which was Wine Dive on 2nd and Gold, which I'm obsessed with every building downtown. Like, I know what it used to be. I know what it could be. I know what's being talked about it.
That's called market research, ladies and gentlemen.
Love it. So I was like, something in there, that's great. Something's going into Bert's. Oh, what's Echo's Brewery? That's gonna be wild. And then
that is the most. I like Echoes, but that is the most. Like the first time I walked in, I got to be honest. I was like, what the fuck is this liminal space? Like, I'm happy to be here, but I'm also quite unsettled. Like, why is there so much blue? Why is there so much brown? It's like I'm waiting for like the noises of liminal spaces to start playing in that place. Oh, yeah. It is so. It's a fun mic though. I gotta say,
thanks.
Very fun place to be at. But, anyway.
But yeah, I mean, you can't even imagine. He went through 9 those rentable dumpster like containers. Just digging out the storage container length dumpsters. 9 of those. Ripping up the floor, tearing out the black mold that was in the ceiling, completely taking all the like tiki bar stuff that had just like basically been left to rot inside of it. What did it used to be? It was called Bert's Tiki Lounge or Bert's Tiki Bar, and it was great. It was like one of the most fun places downtown. And then before that, it was called the Dingo in the '90s, and it has like a long storied, like cool hangout spot. But the
previous owners, after they were done with it, they were just like, meh. Yeah. Someone else will clean it.
Yeah, and so Jake got in and like completely. Sometimes I go in there and I just sit there and I just like marvel at like. The floor, like he had to take out the entire floor. He redid every bathroom, and like sometimes I just sit in there and I just go, "Wow, this is crazy."
Holy shit!
So I think I forgot your question.
So like, what did the administrative process?
It's difficult, but also I will say I lucked out because before I moved to New York, I got myself a business license through LegalZoom, and I was using it when I would do shows on the road, and it was like an easy way for me to have. My taxes in a different way than me just getting paid as Sarah Kennedy. So
right, smart.
My business license is called like SK Media and Entertainment, and that was cool too because then I could get paid for social media stuff on top of it, but it all was under the same umbrella.
Right, and that opens you up for the right tax bracket. It opens you up for write-offs. I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I got doing this podcast. Like, hey, well, you're gonna be spending money on it. You better open a fucking LLC, dumbass. Yeah. And I was like, LLC time.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So it was cool because then we could use that. And so now we do business as Dry Heat Comedy Club. And then because Kelly is my business partner, it's SK Media and Entertainment. So it's Sarah and Kelly in Media and Entertainment, which I don't know how I planned that out 13 years ago, but I did. And that helped. But if you want to open your own business and do a thing like that, use a service like LegalZoom or something like that that'll help you with the administration part of it, because then you still have to get it registered with the state and the city and all that, and that still is like going through these weird online portals and remembering a brand new password. And
I spent, because tax season's coming up, and because I'm an idiot and I lost my paperwork. I had like my employee ID number and all that stuff. I spent 45 minutes with the IRS to get my only the 9-digit number you need. 45 minutes on the phone waiting, and
awful.
Fuck. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, it's my fault. I deserve the punishment, but it just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you start going. You already had your business license, and you already had all that set up. Yeah. So then.
And then I had to get a business bank account, which I had never done that before. And so we went to Wells Fargo, like to the branch, and we were like, 1 business account, please. And then they were like, oh, you got. I still don't believe what they said to me. They were like, oh no, you got this through LegalZoom. So technically, you can't have a business license or a business bank account from here. And I was like. You just want to go on lunch. Like, you're just telling me no.
I was like,
because you're not going to work with me. And so then I just, like, literally went home and got on the computer on, like, bankofamerica.com. And I was like, I will go to your #1 competitor and I will do this online. And then I totally got it. And they sent me my card within, like, 3 days. And I was like, that will show you, Wells Fargo. And so we had that. And then we got QuickBooks. And QuickBooks is set up to hook with the with our bank account, luckily, because I'm not an accountant and I'm not very good at that, but I can keep track of things that way. And then we got a business account at Costco so that we could have water bottles. And then, then we just started sourcing all the stuff we needed for like the theater part of the comedy club.
Business account at Costco?
Yeah. You can you can be a business member, and then all your stuff still counts, and like it helps you with the write-offs of the stuff.
Well, looks like I know what I'm doing now, so that when I buy all my water for the fucking podcast, okay, there we go. Holy shit, I had no idea. That makes a lot of sense because I'd imagine it consolidates all your receipts so they're in one place and you only buy in. That is so fucking smart.
It's nice.
Holy shit. Okay, so you start getting all of your finances together for it.
We did an Indiegogo too, which was pretty good.
When was signing day? Like you signed I imagine it's a lease, right?
Yeah, it was a lease. So we signed. We had to get that first, basically. So we were kind of doing all of this at the exact same time. So Doug Peterson is our landlord. He did comedy and does sometimes do comedy. And so he and I have been loosely connected. And he also happens to have like just a gazillion properties. And so when I saw that this yoga studio was his, I had a meeting with him, and he and I, like, he's helped us like get some connections for sponsors for the Funny Fiesta and that kind of stuff too. So like I knew I could go to him and be like, this is the plan. And he also was the landlord of the last attempt at a comedy club, which was open source comedy that Danger and Jason had done in like 2017-ish.
Where was that at?
It was on 3rd Street and Gold. I think it's a dispensary or a tattoo shop now, but it was in like there's that French restaurant on the corner that has a blue door, and it's part of that strip mall.
Okay.
And it was like before you got to like the fancy new, there's like I guess like a sushi spot, and there used to be a pizza spot on that same little stretch of street. And it was great. I got to be like the first headliner in that too. I got to come back to town and be like, this is great, we got a club. And it was a cool space too. Cyrus Moses comes to the mic sometimes, and he makes everybody do bird noises, and he's like a goofy guy, but he's also an incredible just like an asset for just the Albuquerque community. And he does breakdance stuff, and he's a street artist, and he went into open source and he had completely done all of his like street art stuff all around it. And it just looked so like right on Albuquerque. Like it was really cool. I got off track again. Oh, anyway, so I told Doug this was our plan, and he knew it, and he got us all signed up. And so we had a 2-year lease, and we got that to the city. We got the rest of our stuff from our city. And then Omega is the girl who works for the downtown like action group, and so she was like kind of leading us through it and answering our questions. And then we got to do kind of like a soft rollout opening within 3 months. So we got like, so Kelly found these chairs on Facebook Marketplace, so we were able to buy. We got the curtains because our Indiegogo was successful. We built the green room ourselves with the help of our carpenter friend who like taught us how to do drywall.
Nice.
We
that green room, I've peeked my head in a couple of times when I've gone like the Sunday classes, and that green room's neat. What I like about it is you have the posters from like the opening weekends and shit there. Like it's a cool little green room.
It's a fun one, and then we put our own furniture from our house inside of it so people would be comfy. And so
that's what's up.
Yeah, so from March 15th when we signed our lease to like the last week of June, we just were in there all the time, just Kelly painted the whole space herself, like with a pole that we've got from. She threw out her rotator cuff because she painted the whole ceiling by herself, just like whoa, like
holy fuck.
It was crazy. And then my dad put the curtains up, and the ceilings are so high in our space, so like 16-foot ceilings, and my dad is up on a ladder at like midnight trying to like, and because it was like a hot yoga studio, the walls are made out of baby powder, like you can't screw anything in them. And so we were just there being like, oh, God, nothing's going to hold in here. And then our other friend who's a woodworker built our stage, and our other friend who like does makerspace stuff at ASU, like laser printed our onstage sign, and just everybody came out and just made it all. Like, again, it was another Stone Soup situation where it was just like, man, it'd be pretty cool if we had a comedy club. And people were like, well, I bet you need a stage, and like all that kind of stuff. People came out of the woodwork to help out them.
Well, a lot of projects, big and small, happen like that. It's not just like, hey, we have an idea and we're going to do it. It's like, yeah, you have the idea, but they're going to help. Mm-hmm. They're going to help. This business is going to help you this way. Your family's going to jump in because it's New Mexico.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
And like the day we found the chairs, we kind of just wrote to like the comedy group chat and like, Jared Ostrom, Tyler, and William Wheeler all like came and helped us. Like literally had work gloves and they were moving rows and rows. Plus, also we did not think we were going to be as small as we were. We really had a plan to like have at least 70 seats in our space, and have risers is really the plan. So they were going to be like, up and close, like almost like a stadium.
Yeah.
And then the fire marshal came in and was like, nope, 45. And we were like, what? And so we had to we bought over 100 chairs. We had so many chairs.
Oh, shit.
And then we were like, no, you can't do this. We need this for our business. And then they were like, nope, 45. You guys only have one exit. And we were like, we have 2 doors. And then they're like, they share a wall. Counts as one.
Ooh.
And so they just like, they slashed everything that we had planned. And we were like, what are we going to do?
How when you got that news, how close was it to your opening? Like, let's say, did you have an opening date in mind?
Well, I knew June because we were telling everybody June.
Okay,
it's gonna be
so
June.
how close to that was?
I'd say it was probably later April because it was pretty early on in the process because we had to install the seats into the ground. So
Right.
we couldn't have put in 70 seats without the fire marshal being like, yeah, good 70's fine, go ahead.
Right.
So we had it all taped off and we were like, this is where it's going to be. Like, this is how much egress or whatever they say is the walking space between everything. And they would come through and look at it and like just find all the exits and just gave us a score based on also what we were zoned for. We were zoned as a gallery.
Okay.
And then, yep, 45. And I was like, oh, seriously? And then we kept being like, well, do you like comedy? And our fire marshal guy was like, no. And we were like, no!
I actually hate fun,
like,
as it turns out.
It's probably better that way anyway, because otherwise he probably would come hang out too much. And, but...
No, that's it. Okay, so you guys end up getting everything, all the seats, the stadium-style seats, everything gets screwed in. Okay, where did the idea come from to put, like, 'cause I only noticed this like a month ago, that each seat has its, like, personalized name on it. Who came up with that?
So, okay, another undercurrent for all of this is that when I lived in New York, David Rodriguez stayed with us while he was getting ready to do JFL. And David Rodriguez is the owner of the Comedy Fort now. And while he was kind of blowing up in comedy, he is a dad with, like, he's married and has kids in Fort Collins, Colorado. So there's, like, for him to even go on these trips, like, puts a lot of pressure on his family. So then he was like, I cannot do this for my career. People have to come to Fort Collins, and so I have to create a very cool space and make this to where the best comedians in the country are going to come to me. And so I have just been enamored with everything that he's ever done or talked about, or the way that he approaches how to, like, if you're good to the comics, the audience will recognize this, and then the shows will be better anyway. And if you ask any comedian where it's the room they absolutely must play at some point, they all say the Fort. It's always the Comedy Fort. It's the best place to perform. And so I was like, anything he's ever said to do on a podcast, I will just copy that entirely. I used his Indiegogo to style our Indiegogo, and the rewards he was offering people, I was like, this seems like a good idea. And so those chairs we found in the South Valley were $10 for a row of 4. And we got over 100, but we only needed the 45 of them or whatever. And then in our Indiegogo for $200, you could sponsor a chair, and then you would get the plaque on them that was yours. So the return on investment for that is really what helped really just like make our Indiegogo so successful and make it to where those curtains, and I bring them up a lot, is because they were so expensive.
Oh yeah.
It was almost half of all of the money we had raised.
That's not shocking at all.
It blew my mind. And
well, because you were also getting those, not to sound too dorky, but like you were buying those at probably the height of import expenses of the pandemic. Like, that is when wood was shooting up like crazy, and just any material in general, whether it was imported from outside the States or it was made here, it just had to get trucked around. You're spending an exuberant amount of money. So that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
It was wild. And they had to be a certain, like, fire grade, because the fire marshal would come by and be like, do you have the documentation for these? And we'd be like, yes, they're right here. I promise they're right. Like,
and what was the purpose, like, the grade?
So they wouldn't catch on fire.
Okay.
But
so they're fire retardant enough to. Okay.
But we wanted them for the sound. We wanted them for like the theater feel of things, and then also just to make sure that it was like a showroom.
I was gonna say it makes it enclosed. It completely changes the mood from like when I'm there on a Sunday during the day to a show. It completely like it zeroes everything in. It's effective. It's very effective. So whoever, you guys decided to do that was good idea.
Thanks.
Very good idea.
And then we knew we just wanted everything to be black and that the lights all had to point at the stage and then everything else should just fall away. And then because the ceilings are so high, my dad and I made, it was mostly my dad, all the sound panels with like insulation and nice netting around them or whatever. And we hung those up, and the projector screen was its own thing where Kelly almost fell off a ladder, and it was like it was crazy. And then Tyler got all of our tech because his dad was helping Hotel Albuquerque redo all of theirs.
Oh, wow.
And so they were like, we're just going to throw this out. And he was like, no, you are not. And like, he got every LED, he got the projector, he got
that is insane timing.
Yeah. And then a million XLRs and like everything that we needed.
Which aren't cheap.
No.
XLR cables.
No.
Are stupid expensive.
And these are like long, like 50-foot long ones too, which is really nice. And then I was using our sound system for when I would DJ. And I bought that from Albuquerque the magazine because they didn't need it for their things anymore. So it's kind of like, if you look in there, I can point out like who gave or who donated or who helped us make the everything in there, which is pretty cool. But all the chairs, they were purchased for $200 through our Indiegogo.
So you have your soft opening in June. Mm-hmm. When, I'm trying to remember, because I went to the opening weekend for Robert's show, for Buck. Mm-hmm. That was September?
Oh, and he had his first, like, headlining one.
Because that was, like, the opening weekend.
No, his was, because the last week of June we did, each local headliner had a night. And then we booked it like a fantasy draft. So we had all 8 of them come through. And then we literally put every comic in town into like a fantasy draft.
That's funny.
Thing, and so everybody kind of took their turns picking, and then it got a chance to like have a really, like, no repeats kind of.
Yeah.
And so, and then that last week we just got everybody up and running, but then each of them also did their own like single night. And then I know that Buck also had one of those, or a couple. Yeah. He's had a couple of those, which they're killer every single time. He just comes in and just obliterates the crowd every time.
Yes. He's a fucking monster. So you guys, what was that first opening weekend like? The first major opening, like what was like the 24 hours leading up to that? Like your expectations, your worries, your oh shits, like last minute stuff. What was the mindset and the environment like for both you and Kelly?
It reminded me of the weeks that we would do festivals in New York, where it was just like, I knew I was going to get sick afterwards. I didn't get COVID, but I did get, you get a cold because you don't sleep and you're out and like planning all these things. I think 2 weeks before it, I was crying because I was like, we're never going to get this done. It like didn't look anywhere near ready to go in 14 days. And then everything just snapped into place within that last week. So in the last week, I was like super ready. I just wanted to make sure we were advertising enough. Like the last thing I want to do usually ever, which I hate, is overdo it because I don't want a million people like banging down the doors or showing up for something that's like we've overpromised or like that kind of stuff too. So
I see what you're saying.
And it's really, really cool when people just discover us. And usually that means that they're endeared to us in a very different way. So we've got some intentionality behind some of the stuff that we do with that. But we did want it to go well. And so we advertised and just knowing like, okay, we got an early show and a late show. I think we did 10 shows in one weekend, which is wild.
There was a fuck ton of shows.
And as soon as one was done, the next one started, next one. Then Sunday, we had like the last 2 or whatever. And so then as soon as they were done, I was like, okay, well, nothing will be like this high pressure ever again. And then the next year we did the same thing for the anniversary weekend, but we did all kinds of crazy things, like when we taped Jake Otero to the wall and like we did all that stuff. So I think every year for the anniversary, it should feel that way. There should be like some excitement about like, ooh, and there's another one and another one. But
was there a moment, like, as these shows are happening, I'm sure there was a few moments where you're just like, oh my God, this is working.
We're doing it! Yeah. Pretty much right in the middle, I think, like, Friday night when it was, like, Zach's show, I was like, we're really doing it. This one sold out. This one. And then, like, you'd see, like, the next day is, like, click into being sold out, too. And you'd be like, oh, whole weekend sold out. And so it was just very exciting. And then to see people come and like look for their chair and like all that kind of stuff too. Like the people who had been supporting it all the way through just come through and be like, this is how it turned out. Like it was just really a really cool time.
What was the decompression like after the weekend?
Like
personally for you, like where you're getting off, like the highs coming down, the busyness is slowing down, not like business, but how busy you are to get that weekend together and running, like that's slowing down, and you get to kind of have a moment to yourself. What are you thinking after that?
Well, it was the same thing as when I would do the festivals. Like it would be like I need Monday to be a quiet day, and then we had to just kind of jump back into it immediately because then the next weekend we had more shows and we had and then people now were coming in from out of town, and those are the weeks that I usually get the most nervous, is because like our space is pretty cool, and if you come in with the right expectation of it, you'll leave being like, this was the greatest. But if you come in with different expectations, or if you try to big time us or like that kind of stuff, then usually it's a little bit more of a conflict. And so I always try to.
What are the wrong expectations?
So we're very, very intentional about making it where you'll have a local host and a couple other locals on the show, because anybody who's coming through, the whole idea is that you're meshing with everybody. Their network is getting bigger. You're getting to see how good everybody is. And sometimes people think like, oh, they only have locals opening. I'm not going to do that. And they won't pay for me to have a feature here, or like that kind of stuff. And I'm like, no. We are intentionally meshing everybody together.
Oh, you're saying come in with the right intentions as a performer.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. Okay. And then also I will, on the audience side, I can talk about that part too, about they also need to come with the right expectations and that stuff also. But for the performers, yeah, it's like I want to make sure that when they come in, they're not like, oh, I went to some dinky podunk town and they had a dinky podunk comedy show. I want it to be like, they were very intentional about every choice they ever made, and the people who performed with me were incredible and really well picked out for my kind of comedy and that kind of stuff. So, and you can see it once you're like locked in. But we've had a couple people who were like, we did like 2 nights with them, and the first night they just were like the whole time, and then the second night they were like, this is great, can I come back? And then you're like, yeah, you can come back. But
yeah, well, that was part of the conversation I was having with Tripp on the podcast a couple months ago, where it was like, yeah, there are like bigger theater acts like your Jesselnicks, Tom Segura's, Mark Normand, where like it's just not in their whatever ratio they're using for time to money, where they're not going to stop in a dry heat. But then you have the guys like Chris Kanat that came through, and then like Shane Wang, like of course they're going to go do it because maybe they have an extra day in town or whatever it is. Like that's just the personality, and that's also the reach and the type of audience that they go for. That's what it's going to, and it fits amazing. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'd shit bricks if I was sitting in fucking dry heat and Tom Segura walked on stage and slaughtered for the 45, 55 people that are there. But I think expectations are proper and they need to be properly set. So expectations for audience, what are wrong expectations for that then?
So it's hard to, because I almost every choice we make in dry heat for the audience is to say very quietly and non-verbally, I'm sorry, we don't have alcohol. Like, I'm just like,
I know.
The second you walk in, it's like
self-awareness is important. And that's good that you guys recognize that.
So and that's why we have free drinks. You know what I mean? So it's like anything, you get free water bottles, free soda, free whatever. Like that's free. You get a discount at Red Door. You get there are times where we can get beer donated for special events, or we do have picnic licenses. And then the second we do, we make sure that is advertised as loudly as we can humanly muster to be like, tonight there is alcohol, but it's like, and then for so there's that. And then, but it's like every single time people ask, like, do you guys have drinks? And we have to go, no, like every time I hear it happening at the box office, and I'm like, I'm dying inside, because I'm like, that's the one thing that is stopping so much of what would be our growth or our whatever the path is forward.
I mean, let's be frank, the amount of money that you could be making.
Yes, that's what it is. We did this completely backwards. All comedy clubs are just like Chuck E. Cheese's. But booze. Yeah, instead of animatronics, you have people with hopes and dreams. And so
he can turn into Five Nights at Freddy's real quick.
Yeah, it's like real fast.
Real fucking quick. So what is, for lack of a better term, like what is the holdup? Like because I know, obviously, I wouldn't have to speak to you or Kelly to think this, but obviously it's not for lack of trying. No. So what is the administrative holdup? What is the political holdup? Is it a zoning issue? Because you're fucking on Central, surrounded by bars. Mm-hmm. So what Red Door, right there. Yeah. Launchpad, right there.
Founders,
Bozy,
but all of it. Yeah.
Like what? Distillery, for Christ's sakes. Yeah. Like That's
Yes.
if an STD became a building.
Yeah.
Like right there. So what is going on?
Okay, if you want to buy a full liquor license right now, the last one that's sold in New Mexico sold for $250,000.
Buy a liquor license.
Yeah. And you can lease one from a person who owns one.
You have to buy a piece of documentation.
Yeah, and they're sold like the way taxi medallions are sold, basically. So it's like a property that you can own. And so like you could leave it in your will to your kids.
What?
And yeah, so
What the fuck is a taxi medallion?
it's like, so if you want to drive a taxi, you have to own a medallion that says that you own the right to drive a taxi, which is why Uber and Lyft was like such a disruption to that industry, because you did not need that to do Uber or Lyft.
The last time I heard the word medallion, I was watching Johnny Depp play a pirate. What the fuck? Okay, so again, I didn't know that, and I consider myself a layman. No one, I don't think most people know you have to buy a liquor license.
Yeah, and
So you have So the
here's
last
the other
one,
thing about them too. We have such a long history of a problem with DUI in our state that there have been just a myriad of things done to try to address it and change it. And one of the things that changed in the liquor law in like the 80s or 90s was that if one gets taken away because you overserved somebody and then they got busted for DUI too many times, you sold to too many young kids, you just messed it up too many times, and you get it taken away from you, it does not go back up for sale. It stops existing. So we have a dwindling number of licenses that will exist. And so the demand for them gets higher and higher.
Okay, so let's back up. Okay, so and I understand that first part about like I remember when I was growing up, I worked in restaurants for like 7-8 years, and as I became a server, went through all the serving licenses and stuff like that. It is that you get taught, like, if you overserve somebody, they go cause a DUI, they can trace that back to you. You get fucked up for it. Okay, I get that. But then on the other hand, there are a lot of, not even just comedy clubs, but just clubs where it's a 2-drink minimum. Minimum. Okay, so let's have that in the back of our heads. All right. So if you, where I'm hung up right now is, you said that if a liquor license gets pulled, it no longer exists. Yeah. So this might be a stupid question, but so are there a limited number of liquor licenses that can be sold in the city?
Yeah, in the state.
In the state. That makes zero sense.
Yeah.
And then I guess my next argument would be, wouldn't it make sense for your landlord to have a liquor license for the property?
Oh yeah, you could do that. I mean, he owns a liquor license and he will lease it out. Like he leases it out to Red Door. Red Door has a full liquor license because they lease it from the landlord, and it comes usually with the property.
So then that's built into their rent.
Within their rent is a gazillion times more than ours is, because they're basically renting the liquor license and then the building around it.
And not necessarily, let's just, we have to say like the insider baseball on them, but for you guys, do you have a ballpark amount of how much it would cost you a month to rent a liquor or to lease out your liquor license?
The going rate the last time I checked for leasing a liquor license, because like I know like Carrie, who owns Effects, leased hers out from Artichoke Cafe, I think, originally to get Effects started, and then I think
from Artichoke Cafe.
Yeah, because listen, it doesn't matter, like you just whatever. So
you just have to borrow somebody's fucking. Doesn't matter the zoning.
It's under, but I will say if Effects had messed up so bad that they got in trouble too many times, Artichoke Cafe would lose their liquor license at that point, and then all their lessees would also be like. So it is a very precarious situation with all of these like different kinds of arrangements with these people. So
I want to find the person that came up with these laws and just shake them.
So then there's also these opportunities to have like a beer and wine license, which we would love nothing more, because I don't really want to get people tanked on a whole bunch of liquor. I just want to be able to say yes when people go, do you guys have drinks?
Have a beer, yeah.
You have to be 60%, 60% of your sales have to come from food, and you have to have 4 entrees on a menu in order to like be eligible for a beer and wine license. And we're not going to do that. I'm not going to prioritize chicken fingers over what we're doing. I just need a beer.
Even if you guys were big enough to have like a full kitchen and be able to eat comfortably, I gotta be honest, I'm in the camp of a comedy club should not be serving food. I'm in that camp because it's too distracting. You're hearing people crack open things and dip things and rustle around with the paper, and then you've got spill. And then exactly. So even removing from the audience, from the business owning standpoint, you have fucking ranch getting thrown everywhere, and you have like sauce and roaches, and you get rats, and then you get all this.
And then you have to have the health inspection and its own thing with that too, and we don't want that either. And I know
Exactly.
when you are a brewery, you are subject to those things too, and we would do it the right way for that, because that's another thing. It's actually very easy in New Mexico to open your own brewery or start your own winery, and now we even can create our own distilleries. Cool. I don't know how to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I've learned. I could microbrew something right now, and I know brewers. And we had a guy who was going to be like a head brewer for us, and we were going to do our own. And the Brewers Guild here in New Mexico has done so much work to make opening a brewery and incubating a brewery possible. And so what we were going to do is we were going to partner up with an existing brewery, use like some of their equipment that they weren't using, and like rent it from them.
Yeah.
To basically get it all made, and then we were just going to be like our own tap room for ourselves. That was cool, except in order to have an agreement like that with an existing brewery, they had to change a little something in their liquor license policy, and so the one that we had the partnership with was way too busy and couldn't go through the process of doing that, and so that fell through. And so then there's just been like a million other things where we're like, okay, maybe we try this one, and we look into it, and we just figure out what it is legally, and then we go forward with it, and then every little thing has like caught us up in like some way or another, and then it's just been like. So then we were like, okay, maybe. Then you see, like, oh wait, what makes Quesadas such a great and brilliant idea is that it's in the casino that has a liquor license, that has like everything ready to go, and a marketing department that will not stop, and like.
You see me on Breaking Bad, but if you didn't know this, almost every other YouTube ad is. I was at work today listening to podcast or watching podcasts on YouTube on my second monitor, and that popped up. I was like, yeah, I was there last weekend. Yeah, I know, dude. But anyway, okay, so that's actually a perfect example.
Yeah.
Okay, so with Quesadas, they're in the casino, so they use the casino's liquor license. Are they, as much as you could assume, in that situation, are they, because whatever they are paying, whatever, let's call it for simplicity's sake, Quesadas LLC, right? So Quesadas LLC owns the comedy club and cantina. So would Quesadas LLC have to pay extra money on top of their rent to lease out the liquor license, or because they're in that same building, okay, so they get to piggyback. All right, piggyback for free. Okay, great. Why can't you guys do that because you're in that same, because I'd imagine your landlord doesn't just own the dry heat building, owns that block.
He owns the whole
right.
strip.
Okay. So why can't you guys piggyback? Why do you have to pay more money for that license to lease it out?
Because it's not, I mean, it's by the square footage of it. So like the best we could hope for would be that we would maybe be able to lean on Sushi Hana's, because they've got a liquor license, or I think they've got beer and wine because they're a restaurant.
They've got their own liquor license. Okay.
So they're not,
or their own beer and wine license. Okay.
and then Doug's would have to be like leased out, depending on, so like we're not technically the same address or even in the same strip of addresses as Red Door.
Oh, that's stupid, but it makes sense. What the fuck?
So we got that. We got this. We have also talked about like moving into a space that already existed. You know what I mean? Like maybe sharing a space with somebody who had alcohol, and we'd be like the showroom for them and like that kind of stuff too. And I mean, we've literally, you can't even imagine. I should have a law degree because I am poring over the liquor law. We drafted a bill for the legislative session to create a new liquor license that was meant specifically for like art spaces and like stages to like have this new like extended picnic license is what we were kind of calling it. But we still have to do work on that for us to introduce it like next year. So like we've you can't, everything we've tried.
I was gonna say, so I'm grasping at straws here, but I know that the same people that own Launchpad own like El Rey and Sunshine and all that. Has there ever been a conversation or any sort of anything to try to lease or try to get onto their liquor license?
We could. I mean, it's also one of those things where it's like...
I mean, you guys already have a great relationship with Launchpad.
Yeah.
I mean, you did One Liner Madness. That seems like the next bridge in my mind.
So my favorite thing about our partnership with them is that the shrinking and growing of the possible spaces that we can just use. So it's like if Sam Talent wanted to come back to town for whatever reason, we could potentially partner with Joe and his folks to put him at Sunshine. And I would much rather have him at Sunshine than to have him at, and so it's like, for as much as I'd be like, well, maybe he'd like let us rent Moonlight Lounge, right? Because that's inside the Sunshine Theater. It's a good size. You can fit about 100 people in there, and it's got its own bar, and that would be a great opportunity if they would be open to that. But at the same time, any night that there's a concert in Sunshine, we're not going to get to do a show in there. It's too loud, and it's the spillover bar, and it's like, so then that doesn't quite work in that way. And then it's like the space I'd want on the El Rey side would be like, Inside Out is amazing, but only during the summer. And then like the mezzanine is cool, but then if there's like a wrestling show on the main stage, then you can't really. So that, but like I said, like Kelly and I will like leave the house on Saturday, and we will just like Dickensian orphans look in every window and be like, maybe here. But then even if we bought a new place, even if we rented a new place or whatever, we still wouldn't have a liquor license.
Yeah, so, you're still running into the same issue. Mm-hmm. What the fuck? I'm dumbfounded. I really am. That is insane.
So,
Holy fuck.
But it's like it's nothing that I would ever stop trying to solve.
No, right.
So it's pretty much every day from the moment I wake up, I go, maybe we can try this, or maybe we can talk to this person, or maybe we can do this. And then it like, and then it doesn't stop us from just keeping going, because we have to keep going.
Yeah.
And so, and we just hope that as long as we put it in all of our event descriptions, like go to Red Door before and after, go, like that people kind of get the idea that like,
yeah, there's no booze here. Yeah. Because oh boy. Okay. That is so crazy. And again, like I said a little bit earlier, that speaks to not only like the market need for a comedy club downtown, but the hard work and success you guys have had with Dry Heat to be able to do that without a liquor license. But like you said earlier, it doesn't negate the fact that that's like the missing link. Like
really
that's
is.
The last piece of the puzzle. I'm not like, no one could say you're an incomplete comedy club, but it's like, again, booze and comedy go together, and like you were saying, you want to basically say everything surrounding, alluding to hey, we are a dry bar.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm getting frustrated, so I can understand the frustration.
This conversation happens at every party I go to, and I'm an hour into it, people will be like, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know why you brought it up, man. This is now the worst party conversation you've ever had.
That is so... Well, but people, I think, need to hear that aspect of not only just owning a business and hurdles you run into, but just, I'd imagine, that's just a lingering question. Mm-hmm. Why is there no booze at this comedy club? What the shit? So then, to extrapolate out to a place like Hyenas, I'd imagine that they just do their own liquor license because of how big they are.
They're buying one, yeah. But that's also, even the owner of Hyenas, who's been like interviewed in the news, like I think the Journal article, or maybe it was the KOB interview, he said explicitly, like, us having to get this liquor license and getting everything in place for it set us back years. Like they were planning on being open before Dry Heat opened, and now it's not going to be until the summer. And it's like, it's so difficult. It shouldn't be this difficult. And that's what makes Quesadas, again, just such a brilliant idea, like to just all this like perfect storm kind of stuff coming together.
Because that used to be the stage, right?
The stage is now where the sports book is.
Okay.
And that was, they did comedy there, and they had a reputation for having comedy in that space and booking a bunch of locals, including me and everybody. And like,
what fucked that up?
COVID. They stopped doing comedy because of COVID, and then it never came back in that way. But where Quesadas is right now is where the Sadie's used to be. So they can have kind of a front cantina that has like all the same stuff, and then the showroom in the back, and that they've completely like tricked out and got it looking nice. And so it's actually way more conducive for comedy for it to be like that than in the stage. The stage is like a 2-story, like huge, like you'd have these stages where you'd be like, what's going on up there? And it'd be like 12 people. And you'd be like, what's going on down here? But
what the fuck? That is, because I think the baseline of my frustration with this subject is that the argument, because like, okay, it's hard to argue against it. DUI, DWIs are a issue in not even just in the city, but in the state. Mm-hmm. It is an issue.
It's a big time issue.
But to then punish business owners for it, like, and you can extrapolate that out to gun laws, you can extrapolate that out to abortion laws, like to punish the individual has never worked. That has never worked with anything ever. Sorry, but it just hasn't. So that's mind-bending to me.
It's just one of those things where it's like if we had a better public transportation situation that was late at night.
Yeah.
Like AJ Matthews has that joke about being drunk in New York and being on the subway and talking with that lady who was like, "You guys, you've never ridden the subway drunk before?
Yeah.
What do you guys do in your place?" And he's like, "Oh, we just drive."
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh God, like.
Yeah. Well, and then I think that's also too, like, I'd imagine that's a bit of a hindrance of not just like late night venues opening up, but comedy clubs opening up here, is because like a part of like going out to see comedy is, regardless if they have alcohol or not, go see a comedy show. Even if you go to the late show at 9:30 or 10 gets out around 11:30 or 12, and you want to go out and drink afterwards. Well, everything here fucking closes at 12:30 or 1 anyway. So it's like, well, what are you going to go to? And then on top of that, like you just said, public transportation here really sucks. And like I remember when the art bus stuff was happening in 2017, that whole construction ruined small business down
messed
there.
up.
Like I was working at Central Grill and Coffee House at the time. Amazing place.
Yeah, it's great.
I have choice words about the owners. George is awesome. The other one, not so much. But and they know how I feel. That's not a surprise to them. They're not listening to this anyway. But I remember like having conversations, and I think at the time I was like 20. I don't think I'd turned 20. No, I was just entering the military at the time. So I'm 20 years old, and I remember working there and speaking with George, one of the owners, and how like stressed out he was on a regular basis because they had just opened their business, I think 2 years beforehand or so, year and a half beforehand, and when the art stuff started happening, it cut their business in half on every day except for Sundays, which is bananas. But anyway, so then once they build everything up, they hardly ever get the buses on it for like that first 18 months or so. So I remember like all the police officers that were in my unit, my National Guard unit, they're like, yeah, we know that they don't run the buses anyway, so we just run code on Central. We don't even hit the freeway anymore. Yeah. And then they start doing the buses, and might piss people off, but it's the truth. That art bus system, from when it started to right now, it is not real transportation. It shuttles homeless people up and down, and it scares away most people that actually want to use it. Let's just be real. That's what it does. Like 80% of that is just...
Have you used it?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I do. I don't use it now, but I have. And I know that's not only a criticism that I have of it, but it's a criticism that a lot of other people have. Like, they're afraid to use it because of how much crime happens there on a regular basis. I don't know. Public transportation here fucking sucks. I could go on about that. But anyway, I digress. That is wild about the liquor license.
Yeah.
I had no idea you had to buy one. I had no idea that it was... I thought it was something like a... like it's a business license you had to apply for, and provided you hit the criteria.
Then they'd be like, cha-ching, there you go.
Yeah, because you would think that's conducive.
Yeah.
Because you would think, and this is my opinion, you would think that it would be more productive to the local economy to have strict rules on who can distribute alcohol. Well, not even distribute, because you have to fucking sell it at exuberant prices, depending on where you go. But build a strict and rigid criteria so that the right people are able to distribute and sell liquor, if you really are that concerned about your DUIs and DWIs, and build it that way, rather than just saying, well, it's a money game.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah. I mean, but that's also been one of those things, too, where it's like, like Kelly and I, we both had to have full-time jobs while we were running dry heat so that we could run dry heat. And so that it was like this thing where it was like, I've never, up until like last month, when now I'm fully entirely focused. My job is to wake up every morning and care about what happens with dry heat right now. So...
which is a beautiful thing.
It's awesome. I think my lucky star, again, because the same thing happened in New York, where it's like these times where I could have these pockets where just let me focus on that thing. I promise, like, this will flourish with just a little bit of attention. And then eventually it's like, no, I got to be a grown up, go back to work. But for right now, for me to have this means that we can just like really fire on all cylinders and like really get things going in the way that they need to. And, more than we've been able to before. And, because we needed the money to like make sure that it lasted its first year, because no business lasts longer than a year, almost on average. And so,
if they do last, it's because the owners went to an exuberant amount of debt. So you're weighing that. It's like, okay, do I basically have 2 full-time jobs? So yeah, you both have 2 full-time jobs, and you're basically not sleeping, not having a social life, and you're really just doing your best to make this up. And then you're having the added responsibility of being the owner of the only comedy club at the time, especially the only comedy club in town. So it's kind. I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd imagine that there's a level of responsibility to go show your face at open mics, show your face at the comedy shows, and say, hey, we're not just here to scoop up whatever. No, we're here to support comedy. Yeah. So you have to do all of that, or you just go into a shit ton of debt.
Yeah.
And who does that help in the long run anyway?
Yeah. And then you run out of runway on its own way, or like there's a whole bunch of issues with doing that route, which we were like not interested in.
Right. Which was a smart move.
Thank you. Yeah. So we got that, and we do have some debt, but it's not like anything. I mean, we can get it done in a year.
That's owning a business. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a term for that. It's like useful debt, or it's progressive or productive debt.
Productive debt, I think. Productive debt, something like that. Or if not, we've coined it. So we've got that going for us. But then, and then also Kelly and I are still on the planning committee for the Funny Fiesta and like that kind of stuff, because we still want that to happen, and we still want. And I was on the board for Arts Hub and all that stuff too. Like I really just all the stuff. Like, again, being a gap filler, it's like who needs what and what do we need, and this stuff has to keep existing, and this stuff needs to be created, and then the right people need to be put in the right places, and the people that maybe don't feel like they're getting enough of a shine need to be given some special consideration and some stuff for them, and like all that kind of stuff too, just to make sure that we can keep going. So then when Quesada's does open, there's a big pool that audition night can have a huge pool of really great people all show up and just murder. Mm-hmm. And then for Hyenas to open, I want to make sure they know that there's a huge pool of talent here, because if you get past the Hyenas, you can get past all the Hyenas, and then at that point, now you're a comedian that can perform on the road. And then if you're past the Hyenas, you can probably get past a Looney Bin and like that kind of stuff too. So then there is more of a career path, and like...
That's a question. Thank you for bringing that up. Passing. Because obviously Dry Heat is still in its infancy, it's still in its baby years, and it's growing at a very great rate. Is there, when you guys look at business plans for the future and expansion and growth and stuff like that, because I know you guys, you have a resident host with Tyler, and then you have staff that work there, like Steph runs the writing circle on Sundays, which is fucking awesome, and I want to get to that later too. But you already have staff there outside of just you and Kelly. When you start looking at years down the line, do you see Dry Heat becoming a club where it's like, okay, yeah, you can get past here, and now, but our version of past, not our version, but like you getting past at Dry Heat means that you are the feature act. Like you are someone that now we can regularly book when bigger names come in, or we have big shows happening. Like, do you see that down the line for Dry Heat?
I'm not sure, because our model is so different than a traditional club. So there's clubs like the Rise Comedy Theater in Denver that I like, because they're improv, sketch, stand up, all kinds of things. They'll do like lots of stuff. And you could produce a show in there and just have it happen at the Rise, and then however things shake out, then they shake out well for you with money, or just having a regular show and getting to produce for maybe the first time or whatever. Then like in New York, there's, well, honestly, in Austin, too, the Creek and the Cave is a really great example of, like, Rebecca calls it a comedy dojo, or she did in New York. And, like, I produced a show at the Creek and the Cave, and it was a very late night on, like, a Thursday show, but it was late. She let me. It's not really, at the time, you didn't get past at the Creek. You just were, like, around and part of it.
You're in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And QED is kind of like that in Astoria, and I like stuff like that. Like, I would much rather, and I'm so glad that we have Quesadas and Hyenas coming in, because I want to be the alternative space. I want to be the Upright Citizens Brigade, and not be the like Greenwich Village Comedy Club, or like I don't want to be Flappers, or you know what I mean. Like I want to be an alternative space where you go for a premise show, like the Blindfold show that we're going to do in a couple of weeks. Like I want us to have stuff like that, and I want it to be like Jake has his hardcore comedy show every single month,
which fucking sold out.
Yeah,
like I've
2 months in a row.
I need to check my schedule, but I have him coming up on the podcast soon.
He's fantastic,
and I love that guy. He's awesome, but Yeah, he fucking produced his, or you guys allowed him to produce his show, and then it fucking sold. I mean, granted, the lineup was solid too. The credit does not just fall on him.
But
it
he picked
falls
out
on
the lineup.
But he's the one that picked the lineup and produced it. Yeah, I've been, next time I see him, I'm going to give him his kudos for that, because that's awesome.
Yeah.
So the fact that, and I love that too about Dry Heat, that you guys are giving opportunity to, I mean, obviously you guys are local, home and grown anyway, but it's like it's an emphasis on like, this is Albuquerque comedy, this is what we've got.
Yeah.
Like we were just saying with like showing that to places like Casados or Hyenas, it's just awesome to see. It's fucking awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things where it's like, I want Zach Abeda and friends to be at Dry Heat just because it's cool to see who his friends are, you know, and like also just because it sells out also, and like
Yeah.
So
that drop in that I saw on that late night from the fucking dude from Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, so obviously it was dope because he was doing the voices and that whole bit. But I gotta say, because I love comedy that really pushes the fucking envelope, makes people uncomfortable, makes them like, can I laugh at that? I love that. I love that type of comedy. I fucking love that. His joke about inward lovers. Oh my god. Because I was sitting there with my chick and we're looking at each other like, because she has a very dark sense of humor too. So we're looking at like, you know what? He's sticking to it, and I respect that at least. And then when he turned it around on what the joke actually means, and then he spent, and that's why I love so much about joke writing, is that you can spend so much time either putting the audience on your side, so when you say the offensive thing, they get it, or you start with the offensive thing, but you spend so much time winning over the audience that they're like, cool with that, it's
that's
just
the
that
benign violation theory. Do you know about that?
No, I don't.
Oh. So there's this, Peter McGraw is this professor who is trying to figure out what makes jokes funny, and he wrote a whole book about it. And he says it's the Venn diagram between the benign and a violation. So you should have some sort of like bubble popping violation, but it should be innocent enough that it's benign and you don't lose people with it. Or the other way around, where it's like you could be so offensive and whatever, but then it ends up being like, I'm a silly Billy, it's no big deal. You know what I mean? But you're just constantly kind of juggling this middle piece.
I hate pulling out my phone during a fucking podcast. But what's this guy's name again?
Peter McGraw, and I think his book is called like The Humor Code.
Okay.
And I had a big joke where I like drew the Venn diagram and like kind of walked an audience through it just because it was something that I found to be so interesting. But it's so cool when you kind of...
you're right, The Humor Code.
Yeah. It's a neat thing to kind of explore, and just then all of a sudden you start watching comedy in a different way because you're like, who is benign but like offers
I'm finding myself
violations, or exactly, or who's like coming in too hot and then no, they're just being silly, you know, like, or like who is messing up because, oh my god, that's really what you're gonna show up here tonight? You're just like violating everybody, or you're like, not, why are you talking right now? This is like, this has nothing to do with anything. This is too benign. This has nothing to do.
Well, okay, so exactly that, right? So I remember there was one mic that I went to at Echoes, and it was a kid that went up there, and he was just there was no real structure to what he was saying. He was just saying random shit, and then it was just bombing hard. And then he just started rapping, and the rapping went really bad with his version of Real Slim Shady. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I think,
he started rapping. He started rapping his own version of Real Slim Shady.
Steve. Steve still comes.
Oh, okay, that's his name. Okay, I didn't know his fucking name.
But he says a different name every time. He signs up as something different every time.
Well, and then just randomly in the middle of his rap, he just decides to say, "I hate trannies," and just the whole room was like, "Okay, thank you."
Big crook comes out.
Like a fucking Looney Tunes starts to yank it. Yeah, because I think that's what comes to mind where it's like, okay, well, there's nothing behind what you're saying. You're just saying audacious shit to say audacious shit. And even for me, with the type of humor that I like, there's still like a method behind the insane madness, no matter like, because I can still laugh at people like Brian Holtzman.
Yeah.
Like that dude is so out there, but I can still see what he's going for, and I can laugh at probably like 80%, 70% of his shit, and just what he's killing is killing. But then I think when he's just being offensive to be offensive, even he knows that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that type of thing, because he's that seasoned of a guy. But then you have stuff like that where it's like, okay, I think we're just saying audacious shit to say audacious shit.
And it's important to note that Dragon Ball Z guy, the N-word joke was INWARD.
Yeah.
It was a homonym with the N-word.
Yeah, we should finish that up. Right. So that's where all this started. Thank you.
Yeah.
Doing my job for me. Thank you very much. Yeah, so he started with that because the whole crowd was like, oh, is he talking about the racial slur?
Yeah.
But then he spent, credit to where it's due, he spent like a minute and a half, almost 2 minutes on that, letting the silence sit where he's talking through the joke. And then he goes, But no, I'm an outward lover. Yeah. And then what I loved about it, because me and my chick got it, but then we looked around and you're seeing like, it's like lights are turning on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh. And then he's like, oh, you just hear things weird. And then it's other different, like much lighter subject things to bring the crowd back around. And fuck. And the reason I brought his spot up is because, and I think we need to hear about the Dry Heat too, because as much as the alternative comedy you guys provide and the different unique shows you provide, it's still at its core, there is the traditional comedy club foundation to it where you don't know who's going to pop in.
Yeah.
That's just a cool fucking thing. And that's kind of the allure to going to like the Comedy Store or any of the improv
or the Cellar
or the comedy sellers. Like, you know, these tried and true respected names, you never know who's going to pop in. That's why, like, that was also one of my favorite jokes in Crashing, where when he's barking, Seinfeld's gonna be there. Like, well, no, someone like Seinfeld, but Seinfeld could show up. You never know.
The barkers for Broadway Comedy Club would do that in Times Square. They will be like, "Oh, Tina Fey's gonna be there tonight." And you'd be like, "Tina Fey doesn't do stand up."
Yeah.
Like, oh, she'll totally be there. Yeah, absolutely. You guys like stand up? You guys like Tina Fey? And
there was too much of that show that is real for me to not believe that also happens. Yeah. All right. So, holy fuck. Okay. So you guys, because now. Dry Heat. Oh, this is what I want to talk to you about as well with Dry Heat. Okay. What I think, and again, it speaks to everything that you've been displaying over the last hour and a half and some change, is that you, Dry Heat, the proverbial you, but Dry Heat is here for the comedy community. And as long as you maintain that foundation, it's just going to keep growing. And what I really enjoy about your business model is that obviously you guys show that you're here for the community, but it's also conducive to your business and your own growth. And the best example of that is the fact that you guys have a writing session every Wednesday that Steph throws, which is amazing.
That's on Sunday.
I love
it's on Sunday at 1.
Oh, did I say Saturday?
You said Wednesday.
Oh, I said Wednesday. Oh,
it's also great.
Wow.
Red Door's Wednesday.
Red Door's on Wednesdays. Chuck Parker, shout out to the Humpening. But sorry, on Sundays from 1 to 3, with rare exception, it's every Sunday, and it's a great writing circle because it's half of it is actually teaching comedy and going over comedy styles and going over comedy whatever, and then the back half of it is trying out bits. But what's interesting about that is it's not an open mic. Like, you go up with a premise, or you go up with your bit or your joke, whether it's a one-liner or it's up to 2 minutes of one joke, and then the crowd gives you feedback.
Yeah.
And I've gotten extremely constructive criticism from that. And you've got people in the room like me that have only been doing it for a few months, and you got people that have been doing it for years. And you get to hear all of that feedback, and it's great. And I've gotten feedback like, that fucking sucks. You should probably not because it's offensive, but Steph was just like, I don't like that joke. You can keep trying, but it's just, that's not a great joke. And here's why I think that, right? It's just not saying criticism to say criticism,
right.
But then like the joke or the bit that I've been working on about the underground tunnels in New York, that now has an ending that I'm satisfied with because of that writing session. Yeah. And one of my favorite moments out of that was a couple weeks ago when we were there. We were talking about, we're going through it, and Robert Eisner was there, who's a fucking monster too.
Incredible.
And I can see, we're all talking about the joke about the tunnels, and I don't know how we got to it, but he was like kind of just listening. He goes, because the Jews hate the poor, and the room just erupted and we got into a good conversation about that being a possible tag. Because I spoke up and I was like, well, I don't know if I could get away with that, but that's funny. And we talked about like, okay, well, how do you win the audience over to do that? Where is that funny? How is the presentation? Is it who's telling the joke? And it became like a good open, it didn't delve too far because we had to keep going with more stuff, but it started a good conversation about, well, what is funny? Who can get away with what? Should you be able to get away with it? And it's just having that open type of dialogue, I think, is, especially today, I think we're coming out of the extremes of censorship and the extremes of like the wokeism stuff, but I think just continuously having that conversation about what comedy is, what should it be, what can it be, I think it's always constructive to have that conversation than to not have that conversation.
Well, I think what's interesting too about comics is like the pursuit of what is funny is like always number one, and there is so much like trial and error to like polish something.
Yeah.
And to do it at an open mic means you have to run it by the public when it's in its infancy.
Right.
And the comics who are there will probably give you a little bit more of a pass about something if it didn't come out right, or if you know that you probably are a good guy who doesn't believe awful things.
Well, they're also all entering that room under the guise of, we're here to tell jokes.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, the writing circle is fantastic because it does give you a chance to like misspeak in a way that you're like, well, I didn't realize that it was coming across that way.
Right.
And then when people like, whoa, that came across like that way, and then you're like, oh, no, I meant to say this or whatever. Then you already are 10 steps ahead without like coming across as like a villain in public. So it does allow for a little bit more of that exploration. And Steph is such a great facilitator at that too, where he goes, he'll let you go, and then at the end kind of be like, did you mean to say that? Or like, what would saying that mean if somebody who's never met you before heard you say that, and like that kind of stuff.
And that's I've always known this as a comedy fan since I was a kid, but what I'm realizing about it as I'm practicing it more is part of the beauty of stand-up is you can say the most offensive thing and it comes off horrible. But if you just tweak the inflection of your voice, if you tweak your...
You wink like Anthony Jeselnik.
You
just like kind of smile a little bit. Like very tiny things can change the meaning.
You can completely flip it to where the words on paper may be the most offensive thing in the world, but the presentation of it makes like I saw Ali Makovsky at Casablanca this past weekend, and she has a joke. She has a rape joke, and she goes, and it's a very sensitive subject, and I know it's hard to talk about, but I've noticed that if you just sing the word, it's a lot easier for people to swallow. That's fucking genius. But also, I can't do that joke. She does that joke. Because it could be, in my opinion, she does that joke because she has a lot more way to do it because she's a woman, but it's also her stage presence and the tone of her voice and her presentation. But all those intangible factors that go into making the funny what it is, it's fucking genius. But anyway, okay, so the writing session happens on Sundays so that you're able to... Dry Heat is now a place where comics can physically walk in and grow for 2 hours a week. Great. And then what you guys have is you have a sponsored open mic on Thursdays and Fridays at Echoes. That's great because, again, starting point for comedians.
And there's alcohol. That's another reason we moved into Echoes.
And then you have a sponsored show on Thursdays at like 7:30, 8-ish at Elvado. So then you have, at least, like, if you are just canceling out the noise and you're only focusing on what Dry Heat is doing, you now have a place where you go try your shit at an open mic, you revise it at the writing session, and then maybe you can get an opening spot or a feature spot. If you're, however you're progressing, you can get a spot at a free show. So then, like, I'm going to fucking dork out a bit. Okay, so what I love about all of this is... As the business owner and the owners of Dry Heat, you are literally funding your own act.
Yeah.
It's fucking genius, right? So you're funding your own act and you're building up your own business, allowing that growth, allowing the expansion. And if this goes on long enough, you're providing the variety to the audience. Great. Then for the people that are trying to do comedy, you're having all these spaces where they go out and try it, fall flat on their face, but it's fine. And then if and when these comics make it to the show at Elvado, even if they eat shit, can't feel that bad because the patrons didn't pay for the show.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So, sorry, like you got for a free show. If you see somebody kill, sick. If they didn't do that great, it was free anyway. So, and it's all under the banner of Dry Heat, and it's all under the banner of nurturing. And then if they go and they do you expand out a little bit, and they do well at the Elvado show, they're doing well in front of general audiences, then they're getting that testing, they're getting that experience, so they can maybe go do other free shows, or they can get paid shows, they can go open a feature at Dry Heat. Again, it's a beautiful version of the snake eating its tail. It's this perfect full circle of life for comedians that you guys are providing, and it's just fucking genius.
Well, thank you.
Good. Like, keep it up. Like, don't stop. It's good. And I like all of that a lot. And again, I think that type of... I'm not a fucking, like, astrology, energy, aura
well, you're a boy. So.
Guy. Yeah, I'm not that guy, right? I'm not that type of dude. But that energy that you put out of nurturing and helping comedians grow and providing a space and opportunities for that, again, because of how just New Mexico works and how like it's a big city with a small town mindset. So that energy spans throughout the community, and then you have more of these pop-ups happening, you have more of these things happening. And yeah, I just think I love that business model.
Cool. Thanks.
It's very good.
I don't know if we could do it any differently, honestly, because it's one of those things where it's like even if we had a liquor license, I wouldn't do a 2-drink minimum because I don't want to be a DUI factory. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't want to. I don't want to contribute to that.
Right.
And I just don't know. I couldn't. I don't know. There's just like there's things like in Denver at the Comedy Works, they like rank people and like there is a passing structure and like in a very strict way. And I just don't know if that's because I'm not gonna be who decides who's funny. Comedy is the most subjective thing there is. Like everybody is funny in their own way. Everybody can have their own audience.
Well,
no, but really, truly, there is a way.
I think most people can be funny, but not everybody is funny. And that's coming from an unfunny person.
But the people who are in pursuit of it, do you know what I mean? The people, like anybody in Albuquerque who is attempting to do comedy, I know that there could be a show at Dry Heat, if I planned it the right way, where they would thrive. And so it's like one of those things where it's like normally, because it's just Friday and Saturday night and it has to happen this week, I know who's around, who's good, who like I can lean on, who's already helping, who's, and I know that the show will go well that way. When I have a little bit more time, then we can do these amazing things where lots of people can be involved and lots of people can showcase how they're funny. Like when we do 51st Jokes and when we do One-Liner Madness and like all that kind of stuff. When we want to get
51st Jokes was good.
It was so fun.
And
that's a thing that happens all over the country. And if it's happening across the country, it should be happening in Albuquerque.
I was pleasantly surprised with the turnout of that. And that's just a cool venue anyway, with all the fucking barrels and shit. Like that was just because people don't know what that was. So exactly what it sounds like. It was at the beginning of the year. It was like the first or the second of the year, like January 1st or 2nd, and a bunch of comics went up and they did one joke. 50 comics did their first joke of the year. And the backdrop, the setting of it was the back of a brewery.
Yeah, it's Hollow Spirits Distillery.
Yeah.
So that you're like vodka and whiskey is being made
right
distillery,
behind us. Thank you. Yeah, distillery. And you got all like the barrels and all that. It was very well done. I liked that it was taped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, so that is one question I've had. So when you're booking, let's say you're booking out a show for a Friday or a Saturday, not necessarily a Zachabeta and Friends.
Yeah.
Let's say you're choosing a headliner. Are you and I don't know if it's like a booking staff or whatever, whoever decides the booking, is it you guys are choosing, okay, this is the headliner, this is the feature, this is the opener, or do you only focus on the headliner and you allow the headliner to pick their own feature and their own opener and you leave it on them, or where does that responsibilities lie for a traditional comedy show?
Yeah. So like if we have an out-of-towner, when an out-of-towners come through, that's the closest we get to any sort of traditional comedy show that you've got in your mind. So they'll get to do at least a half an hour. We usually let them pick how long they want to go.
Yeah.
And then usually it's Tyler hosting because Tyler's just a monster host who's incredible and so talented. So like he's just a sure bet, and we know that the show's going to go well if he's the one doing it. And then usually we just try to figure out like who meshes with the kind of comedy that I know that headliner is bringing. So it'll just be like people that I know. Like if I know that headliner wants to do a lot of crowd work, I probably won't book people who do crowd work because I want to save all the good questions for that headliner. If it's somebody who does like musical stuff or whatever, maybe I might actually have somebody open up who is a little bit musical with then two people in the middle who are a little bit more traditional, because you also want you want the audience to be like, everybody was like wackadoo, like I don't want that to necessarily be the case. I want it to be like it still looked and felt and sounded like comedy. But it's kind of like a little mix. I try to make almost like a mix CD of comedy with every show.
You want a good symphony. You don't want just only drums.
Yeah.
Because I just got beat in the face with, or you don't want like only horns. It's like, okay, great. Now I can't hear my right ear.
Yeah.
You want a symphony of funny.
Yeah. And really, if a show is exactly how I want it to go at Dry Heat, and this is not to say anything because I love when we have out-of-towners, because again, it's an opportunity to mix them in with the locals and showcase how cool Dry Heat is and how cool the audiences we have at Dry Heat are. My favorite kind of show is a Presents, which is just a showcase show, and it has like 8 local comics and they all do 8 minutes. Like there is no headliner. There's somebody who goes last and we'll give them like some extra intro.
Yeah.
But that's how the Laughing Skull is run in Atlanta, and that's one of the best rooms in the country. And so it's a showcase
The Laughing Skull.
It's unbelievable. It's a great room. And so if we ran the way that the Laughing Skull ran, I would be over the moon. I'd be thrilled for us to just be a showcase club where even people who came in from out of town dropped in and did 8 minutes. So you really got to see like the best of everybody.
I was going to say, so it's an even playing field, and it's like, okay, it doesn't matter what you look like, whatever your background is, who's the funniest. Funny, because funny should be king either way. But especially in environments like that, yeah, I like that.
And so usually, and we've tried, I mean, that's the thing about it too, is like when you open a room, then you have thousands of comedians and 52 weeks with which to book them. And so like our email inbox is in a constant state of just exploded because it's just people. And a lot of them are like punching above their weight class, which drives me crazy. These people who think they can come to Albuquerque and I can headline. And you're like, you can't headline. You can't headline. You just think because I don't know you that I'm going to let you come through and headline.
What are the determining factors when you decide who should be? Because again, like, and I don't want to frame this question as a gatekeeping thing, but at the same time, I got to be completely honest. Gatekeeping is not always bad.
Well,
and because I think it has a negative connotation, but at the end of the day, you should like you have been, you should be building and nurturing a environment where comics can grow. Yes. But you should also protect the image of your business. Yeah. And you shouldn't just give anybody a fucking headlining set because, like, this is the proverbial you, right? Just generally speaking, because, like, they're your friend or because they have 100,000 followers on whatever or because they did this or because, no, it's like, but are you funny? Can you make these 45 people laugh for 30 minutes? 45 minutes, an hour. Can you do that? Just because you're some fucking guy that emails you or some chick that emails you and goes, I can do it. And then it's like, well, I don't think you can. So what's going on in your head because I see that version of gatekeeping not as like, well, I'm better and I'm this and I'm that. It's like, no, I care about who I bring into my club. I care about my club's image. And I also want to because the way I see stuff like this personally is I see it as like, if somebody is a headliner, they don't have to have the same comedy style as, again, so comedian A, who's in their first like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
They look at a headliner who's like, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years deep, and they're on the same bill. They could have the most traditional comedy style as an opener, and then these guys could be the most unconventional, whatever, but it still works and it's still funny to make the same crowd laugh. Even though the styles are different, this comedian should be able to look up to that. Like, okay, that level of work ethic, the way they treat the audience, the way they treat me, the way they treat the feature, the way they treat the opener. Like, I should, not to mold my comedy into what they are, but this is someone I should look up to. This is something that I should look up into, whether it's the way everything I just outlined, right? Yeah. So under that, guys, how are you picking a headliner? What kind of mental checklists are you going through? What kind of criteria are you looking for? Like that type of stuff.
So the nice thing is, like, because again, I know David, I look up to what he does at the Fort. We were on an industry panel together at a festival, and we had the exact same answer for this question, and I was like beside myself nerding out about us having the same answer to this question. Where it's very cool that you have followers. It's very cool that you have credits. It's very cool that you've sent a tape. These are all things that I like to hear in emails that come out to us.
It sounds like bare minimum.
I mean, the tape is the bare minimum. My God. When people reach out, they're like, a tape on request. I'm like, no, it's requested.
No, I was going to say, it seems like it's a bare minimum. And then again, not necessarily the following, because I hate the fucking term influencer, but your ability, your pull. Can you get people to come see you?
Yeah.
You can have 100,000, 150,000 followers, whatever. You can have like 10 or 20,000 followers, but can you get people to come see you?
Yeah. So that's very cool. My favorite thing, and the thing that is the shorthand for this is a good person that we should have at the club, is a vouch from somebody we've had before, somebody who is local, who I look up to, or if they've been at the Fort recently. Like, honestly, if that's its own vouch.
If the gentleman that runs the Fort, he's someone you clearly look up to, someone you clearly respect. So if this comic whoever, right, is getting booked at that club, they now have, even if you don't hear from David, it's a proverbial vouch.
I know exactly what it is.
So you went and they went and played. Okay, great. I would love to have you. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And then also, again, when the 5 years I was in New York, I met just so many comedians, and all of them, a huge batch of them, have just been on Colbert, just been on The Tonight Show, just been. And so, like, I know when they're coming through Albuquerque, I want to reach out to them and be like, come through, like, come see, or like whatever. And then at least it's, they're on the come up, and everybody who comes and sees them can be like, we just saw this guy, and now he's on the TV again, and like all this stuff. And so I don't necessarily need people to email me, because for the most part, I've got enough friends who are shuttling between Austin and Denver that they're just coming through anyway. And so I'm much more willing to put up people in that way, just because I want to show them a good time in Albuquerque.
I was going to say, it's like, are you watching who's moving around the area and you're mapping this out? And
I know exactly, like, all of my friends who are on tour, the first thing and it's kind of what I used to do when I was little too, where I'd be like, Metallica's on tour. Are they coming to Albuquerque? No, they never are. Okay, that's fine. Where's the closest one? Are they going to Phoenix, or are we going to Denver to go see them?
Yeah.
But the same thing with any of my friends who are comedians who are going on tour. They all make their little graphic. They all put it out, and I immediately am just like, where are they? Are they going to be in Phoenix? Are they going to go to Denver? Are they going to go to Plano? Because the House of Comedy in Plano books a lot of them too on their little. And I'm like, that's an okay. You could kind of convince them to come through if you caught them on the right day.
Yeah.
And then if we're really close, I'll just like DM them and be like, hey, it'd be really great if you could come out or whatever. And then otherwise, I mean, a lot of them recently have had a lot more agents and stuff to deal with, like people who represent them. And as soon as that happens, I'm like, oh, brother, like, this is so much harder.
How does that make it more challenging?
Just because they have, like, now they've got people who are working for them to get them these dates. And so if you're going to get them extra dates, you have to go through those people. And they've got contracts and writers and pay expectations that are different than what we can meet sometimes. And
so
if it's my friend, they usually are like, cool, whatever, you know. And then the stuff that we provide them with are like a little bit more immaterial than what an agent would look for from booking somebody. But
so is it out of, so let's say one of your friends, but they have like the agent and the manager, as you described. Is it out of, so let's say they are playing in Plano on January 1st, and then on January 4th, they'll be in Phoenix and they have to cross through anyway. Is it out of the realm of possibility for them to drop in on their own volition, or do they have to run it by their people?
They can
their
drop.
Team?
No, there's times, because I like Liz Glazer's coming at the end of the month, and she is on tour. Liz Glazer.
Okay.
Yeah, she's really fantastic, and she's got an agent and stuff too. But she just kind of adds those dates when she wants to.
Okay, that's good.
But like Ariel Elias, we had to go through her agent and like get her booked that way. And her writer had this stuff where it was like the green room has to have sandwiches and like all this stuff. And I'm like, we don't have sandwiches. Like, I gotta go buy some sandwich. And so I called her and I was like, hey, Ariel, I just want you to know, like, our green room has snacks and water and everything that you need. We don't really do sandwiches. And she was like, I've literally never read my own writer. Don't worry about it.
So what's a writer then?
It's like that thing where it's like no green M&Ms, or we have to have like these things or whatever. And so like once you're but that was created for her by her agency. And it really is, most of the time when people are demanding like no green M&Ms and that stuff, it's meant to be a way for stage techs and the people who are working at the venue to show that they've paid attention more than anything, because otherwise you might endanger somebody by not hooking up the rigging the way that you were supposed to, or like that kind of stuff. So they kind of put these little things. And so I know this, and I make sure that these people who are coming through like know that I've read every single line of your writer. No sandwiches, okay?
That's like, okay. Still a bit pretentious for my liking, but I understand the purpose. That's the same thing as like in boot camp. Why do you have to make your bed a certain way? Or because you have to pay attention to details so that when they give, you know how fucking scary it is being in boot camp? Not scary, but worrying it is when you clearly see the kids who are handling a rifle for the first time, and they're like, ah! And it's like, okay, don't give that kid live ammo yet. Let him
make his bed a couple times.
Yeah, let him fucking like taste the barrel really quick, so he just gets out of his system. This fucking moron. But yeah, that makes, again, I don't exactly agree with it, but it does make a little more sense, because again, well, because you could see like the celebrities, like the big time celebrities who let that get to their heads, like, I will never, that's what I think is funny to me, the celebrities that are like, you can't look at me.
Yeah, don't
like
look at
those
me.
ones. Like, it's like, okay, all right, Scientology, calm down a little bit. Come on now.
So yeah, we don't really deal with that level of people anyway, and I don't want to. That's not. But so you know, we got all that going. But.
Okay, Jesus, this has been a fucking education. Okay, so that's how you're picking the head. Okay, so like for something like, just because I'm curious, because Zach's a friend and I like that guy a lot. Is Zach picking his own lineup, or is it okay? That's what I kind of figured.
If you produce a show at Dry Heat, you are in charge of everything, except you get a tech who runs your tech for you. You get box office and your ticket link made for you.
Nice.
And then you get all the snacks in the green room that you want. And then if you need help with your flyer, and then you also get included in our usual promotion, but we leave it to you to do your own promotion.
Right?
Yeah,
because that's good. Like, and Dry Heat is very, like, I'd say in a lot of respects you're already there, where it's like people just go to Dry Heat because they like Dry Heat.
What's going on tonight?
What's going on at Dry Heat? And when you were first starting the club, and then you get the big pops that you had for the big weekends, was there a timeline where it's like, okay, by month whatever or year whatever, we're just gonna have name recognition? Was there an idea for that?
No, it was one of those things where I was like, I know
it'll come.
Yeah, I know. Like I want so desperately. Same thing with our wedding. You know, like I want to show some New Yorkers the sky sometimes, and I want them. Like we put them up at a hotel. We put them up at Monterey if we get a chance to. It's like our partnership hotel, because I like that it is a renovated Route 66 historic motel, and they've got Tempur-Pedic mattresses. It's a very cute.
Yeah.
Like Shandine works there, and she was a comic for a long time, and she makes sure that they have a good experience, and so. It's an extra little Albuquerque moment that you wouldn't otherwise get if a person who was like not as obsessed with Albuquerque as I am wasn't in charge of where you were to sleep that night. Yeah. So when we opened, I was like, how cool is it that we're going to, because comedians, especially ones in New York, would never give themselves a vacation. And if they're going to go out of town, they're going to find stage time to do when they're out of town, even if they're on their honeymoon. Right. So we were like, well, this is great, because anybody that we know who really cares about what they're doing, they never give themselves a vacation. They can come out here a couple days, stay in a nice hotel, get the stage time that's easygoing and great for them, reconnect with friends, eat really well, and then go back home and be like, that was really nice. And then tell everybody, like, Albuquerque actually really surprised me. I loved it there. It was so beautiful. And then, all that, it's very curated and meant for it to be like, Albuquerque rules. We're going back as soon as possible. So
love that. And so for anyone listening might want to, what are the logistics of setting up their own showcase at Dry Heat?
The trick really is to connect with me and Kelly about it. We've got producer stipulations and expectations that we send out that just tell you, like, this is what you're in charge of. This is what we ask for when you book a show. And this is what the ticket split looks like or whatever, just to make sure that you're paying for the services that we're providing, that you've got skin in the game is really, so it's modeled after what QED does in Astoria, where it's like, you do have to reach a certain threshold with your ticket sales. Right. And then after that, you keep everything. And then it just makes sure that you care enough and you're not just putting out whatever. Yeah. And
because again, you want to protect your image.
Yeah. It's like, it's cool if you want to do, and then honestly, yeah, so people can do crazy premise shows where they
that's not what I'm saying at all. Like, you guys are not out of the realm of doing unique and interesting shows. Like, you're doing a fucking blindfold show, like you brought up, right? That's not what I'm saying. It's just that you're booking people that obviously, like we said before, funny. Funny is top, but that they are, how do I put this? Like, you're not booking an asshole.
Right.
I don't know how else to fucking say it. Like, and I don't mean asshole in the name of like because again, offensive is subjective, but just somebody who's not gonna fucking, portray you guys in a bad light. Yeah. Of course, you don't want that.
And so that's really the thing about it. And like a lot of people just ask, like, how do you get booked at Dry Heat and all this stuff? And we like booking a lot of different people. Sometimes just by nature of doing so many shows a month, we have to book by hook or by crook or with our regular like corral of people that are nearby. But the true answer is just like be part of the more that you are like in the community and part of things, showing up on Sundays, like that kind of like showing, just like, I need to see you and you need to be top of mind. And that's the same thing. That's how you're successful in any market in the entire world. Just be there so that people think of you when they need people.
And what changed because again, I feel like people can listen to that like, oh, well, you're just picking your friend. You're just picking from your circle. No, what really flipped my point of view on that and wasn't even like in comedy. It was just like in getting jobs.
Yeah.
If you get picked for something like this, especially in entertainment, you are an investment. It's not like, oh, I'm picking you because you're my friend, or I'm picking you because you're blah, 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 blah. No, it's like, I have a vested interest to keep the lights on. You, if it's just for tonight, are going to be a tool in keeping the lights on. Are you worth the investment? Or is there someone better suited for what I'm about to let you do? It's as simple as that.
And when I was just a producer and producing in other places and doing bar shows, I was so much more loosey-goosey with like giving lots of people chances, big time chances. And then when it did come down to like, oh man, if one person's set means that we get a 1-star review, like this is not cute anymore. We can't risk that. But we do know the people who, like, that doesn't mean that you can't be like a grump or have a perspective or do cool takes on things or really take like the audience on a journey in like an interesting way. It just means that like if you're not ready, I can't do it right now.
No, are you reaching the end goal of are you funny?
And are you funny for the time that we need you to be funny for the whole time?
Yeah. Yeah, no, like yes, exactly. If you're doing an opening 5-minute set, you probably shouldn't be doing jokes with 3-minute setups.
And that's the thing too. It's like sometimes I'll see brand new comics and they just do the same 3 jokes at every open mic. And I'm like, that's great. And I'm glad that you're refining and getting things going. But that for me, if I'm booking and I'm like, I need like an 8-minute set right now. And I know that you've got 3 good jokes. I'm like, that's not 8 minutes yet. Yeah. So we're just waiting. And then like you pile it in. And the best part is like the more you write and then if you can just have a huge library to pull from, odds are good you can stack it in a way and then refine the stack to be exactly 8 minutes of funny and just treat it in a way that's productive.
Right. No, it's just a fact of the matter. Yeah. It's not because again, at the end of the day, like comedy is fun, it's a good process, but it's also a business, and you are now a business owner. Have been a business owner, and being a producer for so long, adding business owner on top of that, you have prerogatives, and you have like, and again, this is something that's like. In a negative way, you have an agenda, and your agenda is keeping the fucking lights on.
Yeah. And especially before we had Quesadas and Hyenas, it was like if Dry Heat closes, then we go back to not having a comedy club anymore, and then it's like, well, we can't do that. We cannot go backwards like this.
And that is thank you for saying that because that's what I was going to say earlier, but it escaped my mind. There's a lot of responsibility with being because I don't think it is any coincidence that Dry Heat opens, does well, Quesadas. Doing pretty well from what I've heard. Doing pretty all right. Now Highness has been trying to do it. We already covered that. But like it can't be a coincidence. And so it's a lot of responsibility to be put on your guys' shoulders. Like, okay, this is our other not a test run. This is our other opportunity. We already lost laughs. We lost open source. How's Dry Heat doing? It turns out quite well. Yeah. So that's smart. So like we already said, so there's open mics throughout the week. You guys sponsor 2 nights at Echoes, and there's the new one that just started over at Z Lounge. I've been there twice now, and I quite like it. I gotta be honest, it's different.
It's a cool room.
It's a cool room though. It's very different. Out of all of the spaces that would be suitable for an open mic, in your opinion, what is a space that's not being used right now that probably should be in the future?
Oh, man, this is such a great question because this is one of those ones that I'm like, oh. We had one for a very, very long time at the Nexus off of the freeway, and they've got a side room that's kind of like it's a covered patio, but it isn't a completely enclosed room, and so many magical nights happened in that space, and then so many horrible nights from horrible comics happened in that space that I completely understand why the owners were like, ooh, but...
Okay. Was it driving away business?
It was like bad.
Oh shit! Because that's what I love. I gotta be honest, because of how my sense of humor is. Part of the magic of an open mic is watching people say horribly offensive or just crowd dividing things, and then the crowd turning up. It's a part of the fucking magic. It's just for me anyway. Because again, I think that a lot of And the open mics here do a good job of it, whether it's Lizard Tail, Red Door, or Sly's Parlor, or Echoes. They do a good job, and the hosts do a good job providing the environment of this is a comedy open mic.
It's practice.
We're
it's a scrimmage.
All here in the name. We're not here to offend anybody. We are here to make people laugh. Now, in the process of that, you might get offended. In the process of that, you might just hear some outright offensive whatever shit.
And on the other end of it, comedians, you need to know that the audience is going to respond to what you're saying. You're going to get a response right away.
Exactly. Like, I believe wholeheartedly in free speech. I'm a little bit of a free speech extremist, but I am also a huge advocate for freedom of response. And if you say something silly, you say something stupid, and people have some choice words for you after that, you need to take it.
Yeah, and hold. Yeah, I think it's a really unique thing, and that's the best part about stand-up in general. Like with improv, it is made up off of the top of your head, and you really, but you have to practice with people on an off day, and then hope that it aligns and whatever. Like stand-up, you get immediate feedback for an idea that maybe you're thinking of as you're saying the sentence out loud, and you still get it immediately, and you can adjust whatever you're going to say next, or go home and be like, why did I say that? That was weird. Or I'm glad I said that tonight. That was good. And then and there's not really a lot of art forms where you can't make a painting. I guess you can make a painting live, and we actually have some really cool people who do that here in Albuquerque. But nobody's going don't use that color, and you go, well, better change the color.
But in comedy, some people are like, hey, don't use that color.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it's like, and then the crazy part about it too is you might have an idea that you know is offensive and you know can work, but the only way you're going to figure out how it works is showing it in its rough, like Play-Doh-y, whatever. But anyway, so what are spaces right now?
Let's go back to that. Yeah, let's figure it out.
That aren't being used that probably should be, because I've got a few right off the top of my head, but I'm curious to see your perspective being business owner, being owner of a comedy club, being so ingrained in this, doing this for so long.
Well, that's also the fun thing about being the person who produces the Don't Tell shows is I'm now in charge of finding spaces that haven't had comedy in them, and then transforming them for one night, and then packing it all up and taking the show on the road, but not on the road, back home. But so if I'm going to produce a show that's not a Don't Tell show, then I've got to find a spot that has alcohol that I don't think is being utilized quite right yet. But if I'm doing a Don't Tell, then I'm just trying to find a wacky ass space. I just want to find some crazy thing, what we're going to... I've never even heard of this address. Where am I going for this? And then you show up and it's what?
This is the basement of the salon was sick. The
it was so cool.
Basement of the salon was sick. Me and my three of my homies showed up to that. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah. That one was cool. The indoor flea market was crazy. And then it's been... I want to do it in all kinds... the Don't Tells that take place in other cities, they'll do them in the football stadium, or they'll find spaces that are in the off season or whatever, and then invite. Right. I want to do it in the planetarium. I want to do it all over the place and just make it be I didn't think you could do this here, and then it's yeah, it's amazing. What a night. But for open mics and stuff like that, I mentioned it earlier, but Moonlight Lounge would be very cool on an off night that they're not doing.
Interesting for sure. Yeah.
Just because it does have the access to the alcohol, it is a stage with good lighting. I think this is I don't even know how we can make this work, but I think the Galleria needs to get lit up. That is an old 80s style, 90s style former mall that now has the gym, a gallery, and then and then a parking garage. And it's still, you can still go down there and walk around. There's a fountain, there's all kinds of stuff.
I haven't been down there in years, because when I was a little kid, the downtown sports and wellness is where my dad would go work out. Is how he would take me there as a little kid. I haven't been down there in fucking years. That would be
exceptionally vaporwave and synthwavey kind of abandoned mall-y kind of feel, and I think that would be very, very fun to do something down there. But it has to close at 7. And I'm no, we could do something in one of the abandoned ones, or in the I don't know, in the gallery that's down there, or whatever. Make everybody I don't know. The experience of going down there is very cool and very immersive, and I think it would be a really good way.
Wasn't there a restaurant down there at one point?
Yes, and it's empty, and I walk by it sometimes when we're just kind of exploring and doing our normal...
Garduño's, right? Or Garcia's?
It's something, it was a Mexican restaurant, and it's wide open, and you can look through and see the entire setup of what the restaurant is, and I'm this is where we would do it. This is where we would move dry heat if we could, and we could keep it open late.
Oh, man. I haven't thought about that place in a long time. That's crazy. Great. So, anyway, for an open mic, is there any place that really comes to mind right now?
We just have so many. I think The West Side could use a little bit. Oh, Soper Mesa actually has a really beautiful back room, and they're a really nice.
That Don't Tell show was sick. Though.
It was nice there, yeah. But like, I think that would be a good spot for. The West Side needs a little bit more love, I think, from.
Yeah.
And so that would be cool to do it there, and I think that they'd be open to it. So.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, like Canvas, I think might be a cool place to try something, although their lighting is weird, so I don't think it'd be really hard. Oh, it's really, I mean, if you go, it's one of my favorite brunch places downtown. Like, it's really cool on a Sunday day. Their staff is nice, and their food is good. But from what I can tell, I think it'd be hard. You'd have to have a side room or something like that. That's a little difficult. But Damasio's also has some nice little side room stuff with like nice chairs and stuff, and a liquor license and everything, and kind of a cool place to do it.
Well, because last summer where I did my first go at an open mic was at Inside Out.
Oh yeah,
the one that Buck and Amory did. And that was such a fun. Don't get me wrong; it was during the summer, and somebody got a little hot and sweaty in there because it's a fucking outdoor thing. But that was so much fun, and it was cool because then it's like you get to say, "Oh yeah, I've been on the Inside Out stage."
Yeah,
like that's just something neat. And what I really liked about that open mic was the way they ran it like a very small Kill Tony.
That was cool.
I liked it a lot. And that was a really fun one. I think I heard there used to be one at Founders.
Oh yeah. Mondays.
Founders would be sick.
It was great.
And is there any like reason why that one just stopped or?
Well, I mean, what's crazy about before it was at Founders on Mondays, it was at Inside Out, and so they would just use Founders for the winter time. But then
bring that shit back.
Yeah, it was so awesome, and being run by Holly and Royal too. They ran it in such a fun way, and then it was also like. Roy Wood Jr. came through one time and just like got to do it because and so it was awesome because it happened to be at Inside Out and he did it like on that stage and everybody like got to take pictures with him and it was a great night of comedy.
You're talking about the comic that took over This Is Not Happening from when Ari Shaffir left, right?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Everybody wanted to host the Daily Show and then they wouldn't let him or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would have been a great host of the Daily Show.
Yes, he still would be a good host for the Daily Show.
He would have been great. Holy shit, I had no idea.
Yeah, so it's like that, it's Inside Out is such a cool space, but it's hard to staff every space in the El Rey with people, and at least Founders has somebody there like every single night,
right? And
so it was easy to keep it down there because they were still using the same staff, whereas they had to hire some extra people to be out there for just the open mic, and I'm not sure, but what else changed about it? But
well, I think now especially with the success of Dry Heat, Casadas, and especially when Hyenas opens up this summer, I mean. It is only in these venues' best interests to host open mics because they're just going to get more. And that was the whole mindset. Like when I was talking to AJ and Pierce and Josh on the podcast a while back about Tractor, like you're just giving them more business than they would have had on a Monday anyway.
Oh yeah.
So it's in their best interest. And now again with all these clubs doing well, opening up and doing well. It's not just like, you're doing a fucking open mic? Like, what the fuck? It's like, oh, yeah, comedy open mic. Right, we have 3 clubs now. Get in here.
Yeah.
Like, it makes all the more sense. I would love to see Founders come back. That'd be cool.
It'd be really cool. And the Brandon, who like kind of runs things down there, but he's the coolest guy. So, and he loves comedy, too. So,
yeah.
He'd probably be pretty open to it.
Bring that shit back. That'd be sick. Holy fuck. Well, this has been an absolute education on not only local comedy, but what a real, like, working, continuing comedian's life is like. And there's a million different ways that this story gets told, but to hear it all firsthand in long format, I think, well, I hope that this reaches people that either are doing comedy that need the motivation to keep going, or people that are thinking about it that want to start.
Oh, you got to start. You got to do it. Everybody's got to try comedy someday.
What would you say to people that are just starting comedy, trying to figure it out? They're in their first few years, like, and they feel like they may be hitting a wall, or they like whatever, like the normal trials and tribulations of a starting comic is. I'm like, I don't even know if I am a comic. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know about all that type of stuff. What maybe it's advice to yourself when you were younger, but like generally speaking, like what is some guidance that you would give?
There is a quote that I always butcher every single time, and I misattribute it, I think, because I originally remember it being something that Jerry Seinfeld said. That's like saying Abraham Lincoln said it, but it's like what it was is he or whoever said it said, comedy is the only art form where the second you step on stage, you are doing it and you are that artist. So like the second you get on stage, you are doing comedy and you are a comedian. So Whatever that means and however far you take it, that's it. The audience doesn't know you from anybody else. They just see a comedian get on stage and tell jokes. And so it's like, even if it's at an open mic, you're probably between somebody who's been doing it for 15 years, somebody's been doing it for 3 years or whatever. You are all the same. You are all comedians who are doing comedy. So just know that and like carry that weight and just know that you're just as doing it as Chappelle is every single night, although he gets to smoke indoors. So it's
what
like,
a fucking gangster.
I know. So, but that's the thing about it too, where it's like, then if you treat it like it's that, and that you are of this, then it's like you then have to seek out your own resources. So you can then, what's great about comedy is there's no shortage of very free podcasts where you can just listen to comedians talk shop with each other, listen to live shows that have been recorded, see specials that are just on YouTube existing, listen on Spotify with ads in between of like the best comedy that's ever existed, from Lenny Bruce to like Maria Bamford, everybody. Just go out and consume as much of it as possible because you are of it. You are now part of that, like, you could say community, but you're part of that ecosphere and you're contributing to it every single time you get behind a mic. And so if you want to get good at it, learn as quickly as possible, write as much as possible, and get up as much as possible. Because then that's how you become an expert in anything, is get those 10,000 hours logged in and then just keep going. And it can be your entire life. There are people like somebody just very recently died who was old. Or like Joan Rivers. Like literally up until like the day before she went into the hospital, she was doing comedy like at the Cellar or whatever. And like it can be your life. And you could never really consider yourself done unless you choose to be done. And that's a very exciting thing that I don't think a lot of people choose for themselves. And it's cool to be part of it.
You are a very, very wise individual. We're lucky to have you.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank you very much for spending a couple hours here. I've been looking forward to this a lot.
Yeah, me too. So thank you for having me.
This has been awesome. This is going to come out, what's today? Monday. So this is going to come out on Thursday of this week.
Cool.
Yeah, Thursday or Friday of this week. So what shows are coming up at Dry Heat? So
this week we've got me just doing the whole show by myself show. That'll be on Saturday. Another podcast that we have here in Albuquerque, the Potential Problems podcast, they're celebrating their 10th anniversary by doing a live podcast recording in Dry Heat on Friday.
Shout out to John and Alan. Yeah. I just did their podcast. God, great guys. Great.
I love it. Yeah. And then we've got some presents kind of sprinkled in there. And then the week after that, we've got the Lights Out Laughs, which is the one where everybody's getting blindfolded for the show. The audience is being blindfolded. It would be really awkward to watch the comedians stumble around for however many minutes they're going to do their stuff. And then there's all kinds of exciting stuff coming down the pipe.
And where can everyone find you guys, like your website, social media?
Yeah. It's dryheatcomedyclub.com. We're pretty lucky that one was very available. And then our Instagram is, I think, just Dry Heat Comedy. And really, honestly, the best way to stay up to date is to follow us on Instagram. Like, all the good stuff comes out there. And then my website, sarahkcomedy.com, but it's really just used to keep my headshot and my bio in one place. And then, I don't know. And then you can listen to my podcast, which was Comedy Ghost Town. It's still up on Spotify, but it's a little out of date because I just did the 13 episodes all in one chunk, or I think 11 episodes. But
fuck yeah. Well, thank you again. Seriously, this has meant a lot. I know you're very busy, so I appreciate the time.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
And thank you everyone for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.